fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. Revolution somehow. And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Good morning and welcome to the King's Report on this Tuesday, January 16th, 2018, 8th year of Chungi, 11th month, 30th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm your host, Hyung Deshaun Moon, Saint King of Chaniguk. Let's go first to our AccuWeather forecast with Tim, the Aged Elder. Tim.
Good morning. It's 16 degrees and cloudy with a little bit of snow maybe here and there in the Cheongguk area. And there's going to be light snow off and on today and then through the night, and then it'll get heavier during the night and into the early hours of tomorrow. We're expecting 2 to 4 inches now. Yesterday the forecast was for 1 to 3, now it's 2 to 4, with a 37% chance that it'll be more than 4 inches.
Wow. Isn't that
So
amazing?
it's going to be a bit of snow today and tomorrow. The rest of this week is still predicted to be forecast to be around the freezing mark for the daytime highs, and a little bit chilly in the evenings. Now, the king is traveling this weekend,
Yes.
and he will be traveling to a location that is slightly warmer, actually, than the Chonigung area. A few degrees warmer. It's going to be maybe some rain there this weekend. He may want to take his rain gear there.
Yes.
That's all for the weather for now.
Okay, thank you, Tim. It is a beautiful day when it snows.
Yes.
You can't get enough of that snow. That snow is so fantastic,
Yes.
so wonderful. Looking at the, well, let's go into our headline news. But before we do that, I was just mentioning that looking into the, as Kukjinim is deeply, very interested in the Windhoff method of breathing. This is the, this is the from the Iceman. This is the guy who can swim in the ice waters, and says he can stimulate his immune system so he doesn't get sick. Naturally, of course. And of course, this has good repercussions. I mean, if people can get back into homesteading and back into healing themselves without paying these ridiculous premiums on these insurance, and on all these things, you can save a ton of money if you can if you can heal yourself. And the Windhoff breathing method apparently stimulates your immune system. This man holds a world record, I believe, for swimming in ice and doing marathons in snow. So he's known as the Iceman, and it's basically a set of breathing techniques, which is very sort of standard, but he has different training and breathing system that allows you to prepare your body for getting in the ice. They also say that it's like a body shocker. It shocks your immune system into health. So the Russians, of course, do this for health. Also, I saw, one of the, who's that guy who runs around, the guy with the tattooed feet of roots. He's a older gentleman, but he's a nature man. Lives in the forests of Nova Scotia, something like that. Anyways, out there in not Nova Scotia, the what are those islands off of Seattle and Oregon? Not British Isles.
British Columbia, I guess.
British Columbia, is that it?
That's the province.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. There's mountains there, and he lives in it. He's got a big beard. The guy has great energy. He's running around like in the woods, and he lives there for extended periods of time, like years at a time. And he was the Discovery Channel actually was able to follow him for a couple weeks or something. He allowed for that, and the guy got a flu at some point. He got a cold, and he was treating it with different medicinal herbs. But eventually, he ended up deciding to treat it in the old Roman way, which was to plunge your body into an ice bath, even though you had a cold. And boom, he was healed. He was healed of his flu. By plunging his body into an ice bath, it just stimulates your immune system. That's Windhoff. That's Windhoff, the Iceman there. And he, of course, there's many studies that have been done on him. And one thing he's able to do is he's actually able to reproduce this, so he teach his students how to survive and train in the snow, etc. So he's been in absolutely subarctic freezing temperatures. I don't know how long he's been in there, but I think there he is running on the side too, with no socks, no shoes, running around. He holds, I think, the world record as well to resist cold and to do marathons in the cold, as well as swimming in the cold. So he's definitely the Iceman, as is well known. But we've got to get everybody to do this ice training too. Ice training. We have a nice window of opportunity when it's snowing. we're going to be gone for about 2.5 weeks. So, it's probably, hopefully it'll get colder. Right? It'll be what, February something when we come back. February, in the mid-February, so early February we come back. And so we have all of February as well to do this ice training. So it should be good. It should be a good time. It should be good. All right, let's go to our headline news today on dredgereport.com.
Okay.
Let's go through all the headline news, Tim.
All right.
We're going to make it through today.
Okay. Flashback. Jesse Jackson praises and thanks Trump for lifetime of service to African Americans.
Look at that, even though he's calling racist now.
Yes. CNN airs 195 uses of S-hole in a day.
Oh,
California freak house. Teens chained in bed. Escape leads to reveal, I think, 13 children as old as 29 were discovered in this house. The parents have been arrested.
Wow.
Lewinsky scandal turns 20. Drudge is actually celebrating this or remembering this because this is the story that was the big break for Drudge 20 years ago. He was, plugging along and doing this site and just pretty much as it is now, except without ads. But then, as I recall, a reporter wrote the Lewinsky story for Newsweek about the president having an affair with this young intern, and Newsweek refused to publish it. I think Lewinsky was underage at that time. Newsweek refused to publish it, so the reporter leaked it to Drudge, and Drudge published it, and that really was his big break. And so I think maybe for that reason he's sort of looking back on his own career. Because back then, he was pretty much, it looked exactly like it does now. I started following Drudge about 15 years ago, I think, or so. Just didn't have any ads back then, but otherwise it was exactly as it is now. These 3 columns, list of articles, all that. Tripp, no regrets. She's the one, Linda Tripp is the one who recorded conversations with Monica Lewinsky about her affair with the president, ongoing affair with the president, and then revealed that, turned those over eventually to a prosecutor. And so she's given an interview now about that to the Daily Mail in UK. There's a long article in the Daily Mail about that. CNN flashback, race to the bottom paper, Drudge is the world's most powerful journalist. Anybody, if you were operating a blog back then, and you could get a headline, you could get a link onto Drudge, which happened to me a few times, you could get about 10,000 hits an hour. Every hour you could get about 10,000 hits. Remember that. So he was driving a lot of traffic to a lot of people. Suppressing a sneeze, dangerous, doctors warn. Just let it out. Black widow on trial for poisoning elderly suitors. Iowa lawsuit pits gay rights against religious freedom. Workers who sent out Hawaii missile alert reassigned. Agency gets death threats. One result of that whole fiasco in Hawaii is that Hawaii's whole alert system has lost credibility. So, the next time there's a warning, people may say, it's just another false alarm. I think some people may say that.
Oh, yeah, they will.
That's probably dangerous. Soros fights back against populist foes. I'd like to go into that, although this particular link on Drudge is dead. Somehow it links to the wrong page. But Soros gave an interview to the Financial Times where he says that the EU is on the verge of breaking down, and he's doing his best to keep that from happening. I think it'd be an interesting interview to look at, just because got to know your opponents. Mm-hmm. Ed Sheeran plagiarism problem getting worse. Latest exposes Faith Hill, Tim McGraw. Update 7. Steven Seagal denies Bond girl assault. Actor exposes deep state war versus America. His relationship with Putin. NAACP says MLK, Martin Luther King's vision, can't be achieved without fighting global warming. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Martin Luther King would be surprised. Obama library drama intensifies, mounting opposition from environmentalists and historians. Historians are objecting to the fact that the library is not going to include any documents from Obama. Close-up Condé Nast drops Weber and Testino over sex misconduct allegations and new rules to protect models from harassment. HBO rivalry with Netflix heats the NAFTA trio to gather in Davos as negotiations resume. A contraceptive app blamed for accidental pregnancies. A whale was saved after 285 feet of rope was removed from its mouth. Great Pyramid Mystery Chamber may hold Pharaoh's meteorite throne. Free weed lights up DC's pot gifting economy. Veteran sues VA for leaving scalpel inside his abdomen. That sounds pretty bad. Wheelchair athlete honored for rock climb. You see a photograph here of him going up a cliff in his wheelchair. Pervy Twitter sorts through sex messages and pics. This is a James O'Keefe reveal. It's pretty shocking, actually. I think everybody needs to take a look at that because it makes the point that once you put something online, it's there forever.
That's right.
Yeah, and they actually, this video says they have 300 or 400 people who are basically paid all day to go through photographs of male genitalia.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty gross, but everyone needs to see it. Not the male genitalia, but the video. Supermarket ban, and there are no photographs of that, so don't worry. The supermarket bans all plastic. Seattle soda tax sticker shock. A $10.34 tax on a $15 case of Coke. Okay. Rex Reed, Phantom Thread as elusive as its meaningless title. California leads the nation in poverty. Usually when you think about the most impoverished states, you think of, West Virginia, maybe Arkansas, maybe Alabama, Mississippi. None of those. California has the highest poverty rate now. Dozen arrested for feeding homeless in San Diego. Don't feed the homeless.
They don't want you to feed the homeless.
They don't want that, nope.
Well, it's interesting that those kind of, the fact that Twitter is now being exposed for reading people's sex messages.
Right.
That linked to another article, which was 2016, June 22nd, 11-year-old's response to nude teacher sex proposition. There's this crazy karate teacher who has been arrested for indecent exposure and soliciting a minor. She's a 21-year-old teacher. She sent an 11-year-old boy, in her class nude photos and said, "I want to have sex with you," in her message. I mean, she's freaking nuts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Once you lose the Christian standards, then everything goes.
There's a problem with a lot of the martial arts that are based still in sort of tradition and not combat. Is that they're still connected to the sort of spirit world of Buddhism and Shintoism and Japanese, samurai and things like that, without being taken over by the culture of Christ. Okay. This woman, 20-year-old woman, young girl, this good mother called the police right away. That's the child's mom. After confronting her son, while the boy told police Figueroa sent him nude photos as well as photos of her private parts, the photos had been deleted. Figueroa turned 21 on Sunday and invited the boy to her 21st birthday party where nobody else would be home. The boy told police that she began making advances on him in February and kept telling him she liked him. See how aggressive these girls are becoming? This is an 11-year-old boy. Investigation said she sent him 15 nude or racy photos. A man who identified himself as the owner of the karate school said he did not find any evidence that Figueroa had tried to molest the boy at school from security cameras. The karate teacher is being held on no bond in the Orange County Jail, and investigators believe there could be other victims. So unbelievable. I mean, she's a cute girl, but what the heck is she doing? She's completely psycho. Trying to rape a little 11-year-old. My gosh, I mean, so
power?
ridiculous.
It's about power.
It really is, isn't it? It really is. Some girls, get that high off of power. And it's a very dangerous thing, very dangerous thing. What's the matter with California? Look at that, folks. Look at California. This just in from what was once the best state in the union. Guess what? Which state has the highest poverty rate in the country? Not Mississippi, New Mexico, or West Virginia, but California, where nearly 1 out of 5 residents is poor. That's according to the Census Bureau's supplementary poverty measure, which factors in costs of housing, food, utilities, and clothing, which includes non-cash government assistance as a form of income. Given robust job growth and the prosperity generated by several industries, it's worth asking why California has fallen behind, especially when the state's per capita GDP increased approximately twice as much as the U.S. average over the 5 years ending in 2016. It's because they're freaking communists and they keep redistributing people's wealth that they're creating. And of course, communism only brings poverty. Only brings poverty. You know, what's it? The Queen was looking at a Korean commentator, Professor Kim Jong-min, I believe his name is. And he was talking about how, which is, we mention this all the time here in the King's Report, but he was talking about how Islam, Catholicism, and communism not only all agree in centralized power, but they all agree with in different sexual ethics, okay, as well as creating poverty wherever they go. They do not create prosperity. They do not create. What was that? What was he saying?
When you see on that map,
Okay, when you see on the map,
communism and Islam,
communist Islam,
they overlap.
they overlap.
Yeah, the place, the area that Islam spreads.
Oh, the area that Islam has spread, communism also spreads. Okay, I'm sorry about that, yeah. And they overlap. There's always a connection between the rise of Islam and, of course, increasing poverty, and also rise in communist ideology. Same in the Catholic world as well. Wherever the Catholic Church goes and takes over nationally, it creates poverty. It doesn't create prosperity because it's a centralized organization. And of course, it's one of the biggest, pedophile networks in the entire world, and that's of course come out. California, not a surprise, of the tragic decline of a beautiful state, actually, in terms of weather and nature. Such a beautiful area, you know what I mean? But of course, the liberal lunatics and the commies always want to go to the beautiful areas, take it over, desiccate it like locusts, turn it into a desert wasteland, and then move on to the next one, move on to the next city to devour and feed off of productive people. It's exactly what they do. On the Twitter hidden camera, hundreds of Twitter employees paid to view everything you post online, including private sex messages. Pranay Singh, Twitter engineer, was caught saying all your sex messages, your sexual organ pictures, like all the girls you've been effing around with, they're all on my server now. Everything you send is stored on my server. You can't delete it. It's already on my server. Exactly. You're paying for the right to use the website with your data, basically. You leak way more information than you think. Like if you go to Twitter for the first time, we have information about you. How would you protect people if this power fell into the wrong hands? You don't, says former Twitter engineer Miranda. There's no way. Continuation of Project Veritas' America Brava series exposes. And there you go. Again, James O'Keefe delivering, exposing the fact that this, quote, open marketplace is not open at all. Let's take a look at this third installment.
We can actually read your DMs.
So all your sex messages and your dick pics are on my server now.
No shit.
Yeah. All your illegitimate wives and all the girls you've been f***ing around with, they're on my server now.
Oh my
I'm
god.
saying to your wife, I'm suing you in your divorce.
So if I send someone a direct message, y'all are gonna look at it to analyze
it?
A machine's gonna look at it.
It is creepy Big Brother. Like, I mean, it's like a level of, like, I don't want to say it freaks me out, but it disturbs me. I've seen way more penises than I've ever wanted to see in my life.
On the DM messages?
DMs, tweets, yes. Penises? Lots of dicks.
There's teams dedicated to it. I mean, we're talking at least three or 400 people. Yes, they're paid to look at dick pics.
If you go to Twitter for the first time,
Twitter has become exposed.
You leak way more information than you think.
I've seen way more penises than I've ever wanted to see in my life. DMs, tweets, yes. Lots of dicks.
We're trying to get the shitty people not to show up.
We aren't as creepy as Facebook for people, but we know some stuff.
What we can do on our side is actually very terrifying.
Twitter has pages and pages of rules and requirements, including its comprehensive terms of service that protects Twitter from you. But you have nothing that protects you from Twitter. The concern? How much information do they have, and what are they doing with it?
What do you do on Twitter? I'm an engineer in the messaging team.
So you could totally hack her DMs.
Maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, you know? Maybe I could hack into her. Like, I don't know. Who knows, right?
Pranay Singh, like a lot of the engineers we talked with, seemed to have a more than cavalier attitude about user privacy. It is almost like the whole culture at Twitter is about abusing and laughing at users.
So everything you send is stored in my server. So I can read exactly what you're sending.
Can I delete it?
You can. It's already on my server now. So all your sex messages and your like dick pics are on my server now.
No shit.
Yeah. All your illegitimate wives and like all the girls you've been f***ing around with, they're on my server now.
Oh my
I'm gonna
god.
send it to your wife, and she's gonna use it in your divorce.
Singh says looking at DMs is not just a joke, it's business. Big business.
So what happens is like when you like write stuff or when you post pictures online, they never go away. Like they're always on there. Because like even after you send them, people are like analyzing them, they're seeing what you're interested in, they're seeing what you're talking about, and they sell that data.
They sell it to who? Like advertisers?
Advertisers. Like,
Wait, you talking about just regular tweets or the DMs? Or both?
everything. Anything you post online.
Wow. So even what you think is private, direct message,
Yeah, it's
they're
all
analyzing it and selling that.
Wait, what? So if I send
Of
someone a
course, you
direct
dummies.
message, y'all are gonna look at it to analyze it?
A machine's gonna look at it. An algorithm will look at it.
Why?
And they'll make a virtual profile about you.
This is not your run-of-the-mill big data. This is personal and specific, and that has a high premium to advertisers.
To actually charge advertisers for money, we have to prove it was you, and that's why using like an email address or like a cookie, something that can track you, yeah, that's more likely.
Mihai Florea is a Twitter software engineer who's been with the company for 3 years.
That's how we make most of our money.
Yeah, so you kind of like sign your privacy away, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're paying for the right to use our website with your data, basically.
Yeah.
And it's the same on every free website.
It seems like Twitter is completely at the mercy of the almighty advertising gods. Twitter's power is terrifying, and it extends far beyond its platform.
You leak way more information than you think.
Okay.
Like, we have information from people, like, if you go to Twitter for the first time, we have information about you.
Okay.
Because, like, we actually bought a company because of this, like, ads network. So, like, when you visit, like, we serve ads for other companies in other people's sites.
Okay.
So when you go and you see that ad, we get the information that you're this person seeing this ad at this moment, at this location, on this website.
Okay.
So we already have a lot of information about you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, what if that fell into the wrong hands? How would you protect people from that?
You don't.
You don't?
There is no way.
Indeed, Twitter's privacy policy states, quote, "We receive information when you view content on or otherwise interact with our services, even if you have not created an account, unquote.
It is creepy Big Brother. Like creepy Big Brother. I mean, it's like a level of like I don't want to say freaks me out, but it disturbs me.
Twitter's overarching surveillance begs the question: how private are your privates?
I get to look at all the reported tweets, which means I've seen a lot of dick pics. It's ridiculous.
So how do you keep those from popping up? Like, are there like little robots?
There are bots. There's something called machine learning, which basically, when someone reports that picture, it gets put into a database, and then as more of those pictures come into place, the machine, our services learn
that's not appropriate.
Yeah, and also more along the lines that they can actually start guessing, like, is this equipment, or is this maybe like an elbow or something?
Yeah.
So,
or is this just a man named Dick?
Yeah, exactly.
When I met with Clay Haynes last week, he was quite forthcoming about his access to intimate photos.
Did you say something about that when you were saying you looked at
Twitter?
Yeah, like nothing's really deleted.
No. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and yes, I did, and no, it's not.
Like everything? Like even like DMs?
Oh yeah, we can actually read your DMs.
I've seen way more penises than I've ever wanted to see in my life.
On the DM messages?
DMs, tweets, yes.
Penises?
Lots of dicks.
It sounds like there's a lot of porn involved in what you do.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, there is a lot of porn.
I mean, when you see all these like dicks, like that's crazy.
That's yeah.
Like
and you know, actually,
Never been able to. Yeah.
This sounds horrible, but I'm actually glad. Unfortunately, it's just dicks, or it's just blowjob pictures,
Yeah.
or it's just that type of stuff.
No, these are like private messages.
Both private and public messages.
Like
People-
DMs too.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary that stuff is stored. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that could be shared. I mean, do you have access to DMs at Twitter?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So when people have access to this stuff, they can leak it. It happens.
Oh yeah. And it's a genie out of the bottle kind of thing after that point.
Yeah.
You know, sure, I could fire them. Heck, I could probably even sue them in some cases.
Yeah.
But the genie's already out of the bottle. Like, how do you actually recoup costs? You can't calculate the cost or the damage of that.
Of sharing a penis picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's teams dedicated to it. I mean, we're talking at least three or 400 people. Yes, they're paid to look at dick pics. You know, there's girls that will spread eagle pictures on there.
Whoa. Like a boyfriend and a girlfriend, right?
No.
What is that?
Porn stars.
Why are they DMing people?
They're trying to get people to, go buy their videos and shit.
To private messages.
Private message, public message. Yeah.
With access to your most intimate photos and information, Twitter is Big Brother. What's more alarming, they're not the biggest brother.
Do they know anything from like ad services though? Like, you know how like ad companies know a bunch about you?
We know some stuff. We aren't as creepy as Facebook or Google, but we know some stuff.
So there you have it. Twitter is aggressively harvesting your personal information, tracking your every movement, your thoughts, and your private correspondence with your significant other. According to Clay Haynes, Twitter's senior network security engineer, if that privilege is abused, then you, quote, can't calculate the cost of that damage.
Here it is, the next installment of Project Veritas's expose on Twitter, having them completely be exposed for the totalitarians that they are, and that's why I always tell young people, don't be taking pictures of yourself. Don't take pictures of yourself. Don't take naked photos. Don't do those kind of things. You see what happens to these things. Unbelievable. We're going to take a short break, and we will be right back after this. Stay with us on the King's Report.
you're just willing to give it a try, and just let the universe and let God guide you from there on. And then it was not after 2 or a couple more trips with each other that we decided that, you know, this could work out actually.
There was this really clear voice that came to me like in that moment where it was just saying like, well, Marshall hasn't rejected you, or Marshall sees you for who you are. And I kind of just like, I kind of had me dumbfounded for a moment. I kind of just sat there and I'm like, I started getting really choked up actually, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, and it was like that, in that moment, I like realized that everything that I've been praying for in terms of like having a man in my life, or like everything that I've been praying for God to have in a spouse, like I realized that all those qualities were in Marshall. And it was a really, really deep realization. And then I'm like, oh my God, everything I was getting frustrated about earlier and all that short temper means nothing anymore, because I realize now, like, it took some sifting through, but I mean, like, I see now that this is really the man that God wants me, and the man that God sent to answer all my prayers. And from there on, I'm like, okay, that's it. Nothing else really matters. I don't care what he does. This I know is from God, and this I know is for real. So I can't turn my back on this now. And that was, for me, the moment that really sealed the deal in my heart. And then shortly after was when Marshall got the phone call.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Tuesday, January 16, 2018. Second King Report live from the Chanigung Palace Studios. To all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God, good morning. It is 5:34 a.m. We're going to go to now Tim for an important report on the evil Nazi collaborator, international banking mafia cartel criminal, George Soros. He's actually banned in many countries, including Iceland, I believe, Greenland, Russia. The U.S. should absolutely go after him and ban him. He's involved in toppling governments and speculating on nation states, imploding them, taking over their money supply. Completely demonic individual who loves turning the nations communist so he can profit off of them. Such a wicked person, but has so much power. And of course, is one of the villains, the biggest funder for Hillary Rotten Clinton. So a real wicked one, pro-abortion, killing babies, pro-homosexual, transgender, sexual deviance, etc. You name it. This man is a total wicked demon that walks the earth. Okay, Tim, let's get to this article on Soros.
Okay, so George Soros gave an interview to the Financial Times, and that is a pay site, but a number of...
He looks like Emperor Palpatine. Look at that.
Non-pay sites are covering this, and I have it on the businessinsider.com. I originally had it on Breitbart. For some reason, that page seems to have been removed, although King still has it on his computer.
Amazing.
But every time I try to go to that site, that page on Breitbart, it says that cannot be found. But I do have it on Business Insider, so let's go through this one. Soros, the dominant ideology of the world now is nationalism, he says. Billionaire George Soros hit back against nationalist critics in an interview with the Financial Times. Soros said criticism and smear campaigns would not stop his organization, the Open Society Foundation's work promoting a liberal agenda. He said he believed Putin was behind many of the attacks against him. Again, the Russians, right?
Again,
the
Russians.
Russians. Aren't they? Billionaire investor George Soros said he would continue to fight the spread of nationalism, which has become the world's, quote, dominant ideology, unquote, in an interview with the Financial Times. Soros spoke about the recent attacks made against him and his organization, the Open Society Foundation, by those he considers enemies of his liberal agenda. But he said he has no plans to relax his efforts. It's a deja vu all over again with one big change. The dominant ideology of the world now is nationalism, said Soros. It's the EU, that's the institutions that's on the verge of a breakdown. He says the EU is on the verge of a breakdown.
He's admitting it.
And Russia is now the resurgent power based on nationalism, unquote.
They've had the globalist control for the last 7 years. They don't want it anymore.
Right. The OSF controls, Open Society Foundation controls billions of dollars, much from Soros's personal fortune, and works in 140 countries worldwide, making grants across various developmental projects. This is a rather leftist publication, so they're implying these are good projects. The society works to build vibrant and tolerant democracies, its website says, and has given away nearly $14 billion since it was founded in 1979. Nearly 20 semi-autonomous boards decide how the money is spent. Soros, a Jewish survivor of World War II, and the story of how he survived. The story of how he survived. Yes,
he helped get the Jews into concentration camps, and he admits that.
Yes.
On 60 Minutes, and they
Yes.
tried to delete that video, but it's still on the internet now. Thanks to.
And I think the reason Breitbart was deleted is because Breitbart quotes from that video. I think, and maybe that's the reason that it somehow got deleted.
Well, that video is still up. I've seen it on.
Worth about $25 billion, is best known in the UK as the man who broke the Bank of England after he bet big against the pound in 1992 and made more than $1 billion. And the Breitbart article makes the point that he says he's moral, or he gives a quote from him saying that usually sometimes I'm moral, sometimes I'm amoral, or something like that. But anyway, when he starts betting, he's destroyed a number of economies.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia.
Quote, speculates.
Right. Yeah.
By
and in that,
gambling on it.
Right, in that CBS video, he says, I don't care what happens.
I don't care what happened.
Right.
I'm going to implode a country so then I can bet against it and then profit off of it.
Yeah. And then I don't know.
It's like getting inside trade information.
Yes.
If you get inside trade information, you know how the market's going to move before they move. You're going to be a billionaire, no question. That's how he becomes a billionaire. He sets the country up for failure into communism using globalism and the UN's agenda of one world government. And then he bets against it.
Yes.
And then takes it over.
But Soros has been the growing focus of attacks in recent months by populists and nationalists who denounce his support for liberal causes. Soros said he believed Russian President Vladimir Putin was behind many of the attacks against him. Putin, quote, doesn't like me, duh, unquote, he said, largely because Soros is critical of the Russian regime. In 2015, the OSF was expelled from Russia on grounds of security risks. Yeah, so it's banned in Russia, that's true. In October 2017, the Hungarian government launched a, quote, national consultation, unquote, about Soros, accusing him of wanting to dismantle border fences and open borders to refugees. Speaking to the FT, a spokesman for the Hungarian government, Zoltán Kovács, said Soros had, quote, never been elected by anyone. The organizations, NGOs, human rights groups, and so on have never been elected by anyone, unquote. They are clearly engaging in determining how political decisions should be made. And this is wrong, the Hungarian spokesman said. Hungary-born Soros has been an advocate of allowing the resettlement of refugees in Europe since the beginning of the European migrant crisis in 2015, and said the attack was a conspiracy against him. Tensions also flared up in...
He's a conspiracy theorist.
Yes. Tensions also flared up in Macedonia last year, where the recipients of OSF grants had their windows smashed in May in retaliation against the collapse of the right-wing government. Meanwhile, in February, the leader of the ruling party in Romania said Soros had financed evil, referring to his role in anti-corruption demonstrations. In the Israeli front, Eli Hazan, foreign relations director of the ruling Israeli Likud party, told the FT, fighting Soros was a pleasure. If I can help other organizations or governments to work against Soros, I would do it with pleasure, because it is a struggle of ideas that may shape the future of the world, said Hazan.
Exactly.
Soros admitted he has not always made the right choices. He previously championed the former Georgian leader Mikhail Saakashvili, who is now under criminal investigation for allegedly taking money from a Russia-backed oligarch to destabilize Ukraine. This taught Soros a painful lesson, he said, to keep a greater distance from the internal politics of the countries where I have foundations. Despite the attacks against him, Soros said he intends to work harder to help foster liberal democracies. Ooh, no, I don't think so. And fight corruption worldwide. Liberal, used to mean tolerant, but it does not anymore. And I think
totalitarian.
Yes, totalitarian democracies or totalitarian centralized controls. Regimes. He said he plans to remain chair of the global board for another 5 years, or as long as his health allows. I think you can say I'm quite lucky with my enemies. It makes me feel more than ready to fight back and stand up for what is right. Or what is left, he said. Anyway, so he's standing up for what is left.
That's correct. He is a complete totalitarian. He is a international criminal and crime boss. He is a central planning, arrogant narcissist who believes through his Emperor Palpatine eye bags that he can magically, rule the nations from his little offices in Manhattan and around the world. So such an arrogant trash.
Yes, he decides who should be in control, yes.
Yes.
He's
Let's go now to Jesse Jackson, praising and thanking Donald Trump for a lifetime of service to African Americans. Of course, this was before he was president, but again, here is the historical proof of that.
Donald Trump for being with us tonight. We need your building skills, your gusto, your rent package for people on Wall Street who represent diversity. And we thank you for coming tonight. Let's give Donald Trump a big hand. A big hand for Donald Trump. I now want to bring forth a friend who has, he is deceptive in that his social style is of such. One can miss his seriousness and his commitment, for his success is beyond argument. When we opened this Wall Street project and we talked about it, he gave us space at 40 Wall Street, which was to make a statement about our having a presence there. And beyond that, in terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And created for many people a comfort zone when I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88. And many others thought it was either laughable or something to avoid. He came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. And so aside from all of his style and his pizzazz, he's a serious person who's an effective builder of building for the builder of people. Last year he was a part of our workshop, of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so a year later, Donald Trump, for a few minutes, challenges and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities. Donald Trump.
I will tell you, a large percentage of the people, and especially in construction, that are building these great jobs are black and minorities, and I'm very proud of it. We have close to 25%, and I think the number's going up, and they do a great job. There are no better builders than we have in New York, and a big percentage of that is black and minority folks. So I just want to thank everybody in the room for being here. I look forward to some questions, and then I don't know how we're ever going to leave this building today, because if you look outside, it is terrible, but we'll figure a way. There's always a way, and thank you, Jesse, and congratulations.
There you go. Even though they're airing the S-hole comment over and over and over to death there's Donald Trump thanked by Jesse Jackson constantly.
The reported S-hole comment.
I'm sorry, the reported S-hole, yeah. There's a
senator who was also there.
Who was there?
Did not say it, and Trump himself is denying it, saying that Dickie Durbin is misrepresenting what was said. And also Senator Paul Rand points out that Donald Trump helped finance a medical mission trip to Haiti in 2014 and help people recover their vision there. Senator Rand Paul said this on Meet the Press on Sunday.
And there he is. Look at that. CNN leaps into the toilet. Network airs 195 uses of S-hole comment on Friday. 195 uses. Unbelievable. Here's some pictures of it. Don Lemon saying he's a racist. He's an absolute racist. It's been confirmed. The President of the United States is a racist. He's racist. He's racist. He's racist. He said asshole. See? And there he is. There's Jaked Up Flake Tapper. Look at him there using it again on CNN. CNN has just been so discredited and so pathetically exposed. They are such a joke. Top news on JudgeReport.com. Excuse me. 13 captive siblings, some chained to beds, rescued from Paris house. Parents have been arrested. A discovery that has stunned both authorities and neighbors in suburban Riverside County neighborhood. 13 brothers and sisters who appeared to have been held captive by their parents in the Paris house were found on early Sunday, January 14th, after one of them escaped and called 911. Some of them were chained and padlocked to their beds inside the dark and foul-smelling house in the 100 block of Muir Woods Road, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department said. Parents were unable to immediately provide a logical reason why their children were restrained in that manner. The victims appeared dirty and malnourished, the release said, and were so emaciated that deputies were shocked to discover that while all looked like children, they actually ranged in age from 2 to 29. 6 of them were minors and 7 were 18 or older. David Lan Turbin, 57, and Luis Turbin, 49, were each arrested on suspicion of 9 counts of torture and 10 counts of child endangerment, online jail records show. Bail was set at $9 million each. Neither suspect has a documented criminal record in Riverside County, Superior Court's records show.
This is Paris, California, by the way.
California. This is California now. In a bankruptcy filing from 2011, when the couple lived in Murrieta, records state that David Turpin was an engineer at Northrop Grumman and his wife was a homemaker. Turpin was also listed in California Department of Education records as principal of a private school with the same address as their house. While it's not clear that the school's 6 enrolled students as of last year were Turpin's own children, parents who intend to homeschool their children are required to file a private school affidavit, according to the State Department of Education website. Neighbors Zinzi and Ricardo Ross expressed disbelief Monday afternoon at the situation in Muir Woods Road. The couple has lived nearby for more than 2 years. It's very shocking, Ricardo Ross said. Very devastating. Zinzi Ross agreed. It's crazy. I can't believe this is going on. There's his house. And look at that. They're right next to neighbors, etc. Early Sunday, a 17-year-old girl who investigators said looked like she was on about 10 managed to escape from the house with a cell phone that she used to call 911. The sheriff's news release said her 12 brothers and sisters were being held captive. Deputies went to the home where they found the other victims along with the parents, David and Luis Turpin. The victims, who claimed to be starving, were fed and admitted to local hospitals. The release said Child Protective Services and Adult Protective Services assisted in the investigation. There was no answer after Child Protective Service main office Monday, the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. A superior at the child abuse hotline said he could not provide any information. It wasn't clear how long authorities believe the children may have been kept in those conditions. The Sheriff's Department made no further information available Monday beyond the news release, but scheduled a rare news conference for 10 a.m. Tuesday. Investigators asked with information on the case, contact Master Investigator Tom Salisbury at the Paris station at this number. The horrible allegations against the Turpin parents contrast sharply with the impression given by their joint Facebook page. Several dozen photographs posted publicly showing a smiling family having fun in places such as Disneyland and Las Vegas. David and Louis Turpin appear to have had marriage renewal ceremonies at least 3 times in 2011, 13, 15 at the Elvis Chapel in Las Vegas. Elvis Chapel in Las Vegas, my gosh. The couple posted photos of the Halloween 2015 ceremony on their Facebook page. Through spring 2016, Louis wears a white wedding gown and David wears a tuxedo. Elvis in a gold jacket. There's a baby in a frilly pink dress and 9 other girls in matching pink and purple plaid dresses, while 3 boys have on black suits and magenta ties. Their hair cut in mop tops like David. Other pictures show the family in matching outfits on other group outings, and there are lots of pictures of the baby, including one in which she wears a Mommy Loves Me t-shirt. Many of the children appear thin in the photos, but not obviously unhealthy. And like the sheriff's deputies who found the victim Sunday, someone seeing the pictures may be surprised any of the children were in their 20s. Attempts to reach relatives of the Turpins were unsuccessful Monday. Comment on one of the family photos indicates the couple moved from California to California around 2009. They purchased their current house in Paris, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2,300 square foot home that was built in 2013. That house at 160 Muir Woods Road is also the address of Sand Castle Day School, a private school founded in 2014-15 according to state records. In the 16-17 school year, had an enrollment of 1 student in each of the 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th grades. The school is within the boundaries of the Paris Union High School District, said Candice Reynes, the District Deputy Superintendent for Business Services. However, as a private school, Reynes says Santa Casa has no association with the public district. Private schools, they don't have to get any approvals from the local school district, she said. Instead, their operators, including a parent who wants to run a private home school, file a private school affidavit with the State Department of Education. The Turbines middle-class neighborhood, where the frequently unkept lawn was one of the things neighbors had noticed most about it, was abuzz Monday afternoon as news spread of what had happened, what had authorities found inside. More than 24 people gathered in groups on the sidewalk and motorists drove by, some slowing down and pulling out the cell phones to capture the scene. And the neighbors, of course, are in shock here. It's interesting that these kind of articles, of course, and the person is so close to other people. Look at that.
I hope they don't try to use this incident to...
Against homeschooling.
Exactly.
Of course, which they seem to be doing. The press enterprise, and you have some wacky places. Of course, every time there's a sex offense in public school, they have no problem reporting that.
Right.
Or not reporting that. But of course, the leftist lunatics are going to absolutely try to use this to demonize all homeschoolers and homeschool parents because you have a wacky bunch here. And of course, this is not indicative of homeschoolers in general. Homeschoolers on average perform actually better in many different state tests than public school trained students. But of course, this is a wacky situation here and a very wacky family. But of course, the homeschooling initiative for parents and families is an important initiative that people should be able to raise their children with their values. Of course, this is a situation where they're actually becoming chained to the beds and things like that. So that is a problem. And there you go. But of course, as Tim said, it will probably use to try to centralize public school and say public school is the only place where kids can be safe when it's some of the most dangerous places for bullying and, of course, indoctrination. And, of course, you got these wacko teachers that are actually sexually not only molesting but having sex with underage children. And, of course, you don't see the news saying, oh, look, we have to ban public school because look at what's happening there, because those kind of wicked things are happening in public school. And, of course, there's a rampant sex culture amongst the children there. Drugs, you name it. The Telegraph reports in the news that Matt Drudge is the world's most powerful journalist. Look at that. There's the Drudge man right there. The world's most powerful journalist. 10 years ago, he was a reclusive, pasty-faced 31-year-old who, bashing away at his laptop in his grungy Hollywood apartment, shot to prominence when he threatened to bring down Bill Clinton's presidency with breaking news of Monica Lewinsky's scandal. Now, Matt Drudge owns a luxurious Mediterranean-style stucco house in Riveralto Island in Florida's Biscayne Bay, a condominium at the Four Seasons in Miami, and is said to drive a black Mustang. He remains an elusive, mysterious figure, but the internet pioneer is arguably the single most powerful journalist. Though his detractors even deny that is his occupation in the world. Drudge is still an outsider, contemptuous of the cozy relationships and closed-door deals that keep the ordinary person from being privy to the secrets of the establishment. He is a reason why people across the globe are now reading about Prince Harry serving in Afghanistan after he shattered a blackout agreed between Fleet Street and Buckingham Palace. This week he posted a photo of Barack Obama dressed in the tribal garb of Somali elder during a 2006 trip to Africa, claiming it had been emailed by a member of Hillary Clinton's campaign. It appeared to be a brazen attempt to fuel rumors that her rival was a dangerous Muslim. Within minutes, the photograph was the talk of Washington newsrooms and New York television studios. BlackBerry messages flew back and forth between reporters and political operatives. The story spread across the World Wide Web as bloggers weighed in on a juicy item that was suddenly topping the news agenda. Welcome to the world of the Drudge Report, a world in which the successor to Walter Cronkite and Bob Woodward is a loner with no university education or journalistic background. He is now surreptitiously courted by the media and political elites that once derided him, but now fear he has the power to change the course of an American election. The Lewinsky scandal and the 2008 presidential campaign are the bookends to what could be described as the Drudge decade. At the start, he was the antagonist who came from nowhere. Bill Clinton initially fumbled the site's name, calling it the Sludge Report. By the end, he had become Hillary Clinton's weapon of choice against Mr. Obama. You want to say something, Tim?
Yeah, just pointing out that this article is published in 2008, 10 years ago.
2008?
Yes.
And they're just reporting this again?
Just reviving on the 10th or 20th anniversary of the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
There you go.
Yeah. So this is because sort of...
It's during the Obama elections here. But Drudge is the world's most powerful journalist.
He still is, yeah.
With massive views per day. France's Black Widow on trial for poisoning elder suitors. Look at this. Patricia Dagorn is suspected of poisoning 4 elderly men. Arrived at the courthouse in Nice, southern France on Monday. Look at that. You can do it without a gun. Isn't that interesting? Yes, you can buy rat poison or whatever, detergent at Walmart. You know what I mean? And people can poison other people with it. A French woman dubbed the Black Widow of the Riviera for alleged seducing and poisoning wealthy elderly men, leading to the deaths of 2 of them, went on trial for murder in the resort city of Nice on Monday. A 57-year-old Patricia Dagorn is charged with fatal poisoning of 2 men found dead in 2011 on the Côte d'Azur and the drugging of 2 others. Prosecutors say she attempted to enrich herself by casting a spell over older men, mostly through a dating agency. She's already serving a 5-year prison term for theft, fraud, and sequestration. Involving an octogenarian in the French Alps in 2012 who agreed to let her live with him in exchange for sexual relations. She was brought into the dock looking disheveled in an oversized black and white tracksuit. One of the 2 men she's accused of trying to poison, 91-year-old widower Robert Vaux, will take the stand this week to testify against her. She was like a ray of sunshine in winter. When you are with a younger woman, you know it won't last, but you don't deny yourself the moment. Unless you're a masochist, Vaux, a former sailor, told reporters at the courthouse on Monday. Police had already suspected Dagorn after the body of Michel Neffel, a man in his 60s with whom she'd been living with at a residential hotel in Nice, was discovered in July 2011. No charges were filed at the time, but the investigation was reopened the following year after police found vials of Valium and personal documents belonging to about a dozen different men among her belongings. The documents include IDs, bank accounts, details, and health insurance cards. Investigators then followed the trail to another suspected murder case, that of Francesco Filippono, 85, whose body was found in his bathtub in an advanced state of decomposition. Oh, goodness. Dagorn had earlier cashed a check from Filippone for 21,000 euros or $25,000, money which she said was a gift to help her open a jewelry shop. She denies the charges against her in their entirety, including the thefts. While she was charged over the case in 2015, Raimondi described his client as a fragile individual who had been placed in foster care at a young age, and who says she feels better with elderly people. She's eager to explain herself. Said her other lawyer, Cedric Huasud, and that she has suffered during her years in prison. And there you go. There is the crazy Black Widow of the Riviera. On trial for poisoning men that she seduces in their 80s and 90s. My gosh. All right, folks, we're going to be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead. fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And we are back Tuesday, January 16, 2018. Hyung, Sean Moon, Second King, reporting live from the Cheonigung Palace Studios. to all the kings and queens of the kingdom of God. It is a kingdom of the Spirit now, but at some true point in the world, it will be an actual kingdom. An actual kingdom. God's kingdom is an actual kingdom that will take the world at some point. Now, going to news on top news on Infowars.com, Paul Joseph Watson reports, Germans being mass brainwashed by TV to submit to Islam. Nationwide re-education program indoctrinates public to surrender their culture of Anglo-European, is that right? European Christian culture.
Anglo would refer to England, I think.
Yeah, Anglo refers to England. European.
Saxonian.
But look at this. Germans are being mass brainwashed by television to surrender their culture and submit to Islam. Take a look at this video. Shocking. They're playing this on German state-run TV. Volume here? Hold on.
To become basically the primary opposition force in Germany, partly as a result of the disastrous policy of allowing millions of Muslim migrants to flood into the country, which Merkel herself admitted was a huge mistake after case of mass molestations, rape and sexual assault, after skyrocketing migrant crime figures, after numerous attempted and completed terrorist attacks. Germany must finally be taking strong action to halt the spread of Islamism within its culture, right?
Allah. Sag das mal. Allah. Allah.
Oh.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Weil ich jetzt Muslima bin.
What you just watched was a clip from a German public television soap opera where a mother converts to Islam in front of her son. Companies putting hijabi women in their ads is one thing, but a soap star literally telling her son that all children are Muslims takes it to another level. Here's another clip from German television depicting the normalization of the hijab.
Enjoy difference, start tolerance.
Another documentary broadcast on German public TV favorably presented a relationship between a 16-year-old German girl and an adult Syrian man. The Muslim migrant tells his girlfriend to dress modestly and consider converting to Islam. Meanwhile, public television is also set to broadcast a movie that depicts a family having to flee a collapsing Germany and seek refuge in Africa to escape a right-wing extremist government that persecutes Muslims. Following an Islamic terror attack by a Syrian migrant, Germany's Tele5 changed its logo to include an Islamic crescent. Germany's top broadcaster ZDF admits that it censors information about rapes if they're committed by Muslim migrants. Germans are being told to learn Arabic, to not fly the German flag because it might offend migrants. German scientists have even proposed mass drugging the population with oxytocin, a drug that increases feelings of trust so they feel more accepting of migrants. What we're witnessing in Germany is nothing less than the mass indoctrination of the population. This is a huge re-education program aimed at normalizing Islam. Germans are being trained that they need to assimilate to Islamic mores and cultural norms, not the other way around. This is why women are being told to travel in groups. This is why gender-segregated safe zones are being set up in major cities for major events. This is submission. This is total capitulation. The only pushback has been increased support for AfD and stunts like this one, where a group plastered "it's okay to be German" signs across major cities. Maybe more Germans would feel free to speak out if they weren't being arrested for offensive social media posts. This is happening all across the entire continent of Europe. And the reason is quite simple. When a society loses faith in its culture, loses faith in its heritage, more aggressive doctrines, belief systems and cultures will rush in to fill the void. What's the end goal?
Right.
The replacement of the population. Oh, don't take my word for it. Listen to the far-left politicians who proudly announce that very agenda.
Unsere Gesellschaft wird sich ändern. Unsere Stadt wird sich radikal verändern. Ich bin der Auffassung, dass wir in 20, 30 Jahren gar keine ethnischen Mehrheiten mehr haben in unserer Stadt. Das ist das, was wir haben werden in der Zukunft. Und ich sage Ihnen noch ganz deutlich, gerade hier in Richtung rechts, das ist gut so.
I'm for limited, skilled immigration, and I want Germany to remain Germany. Multiculturalism isn't about diversity. It's about power. It's about leftist political parties importing future generations of voters at the cost of the identity and security of their own country. If Germany was importing millions of Australians or Japanese, it wouldn't be anywhere near as big a problem. But you can't import millions of people who can't speak the language, are in many cases illiterate, and immediately go on welfare. People who follow a belief system that treats women as second-class citizens. People who are more prone to violent criminal behaviour. Without that changing the fundamental nature of society. Is it any wonder Germany has now followed France in having its own migrant no-go zones? Is it any wonder that migrants were responsible for a 92% increase in reported violent crimes in Germany? Is it any wonder that German cities with the highest population of migrants also have the highest crime rates? Is it any wonder that female genital mutilation cases in Germany are soaring? Is it any wonder that honour killings are on the rise? Is it any wonder historic Christian churches are being demolished as mosques and Islamic centres multiply across the country? Is it any wonder terrorism cases in Germany have increased by more than 900% in 5 years, to the point where children's playgrounds have to be guarded by armed police? And what solution has Germany's grand coalition government offered to address all this? They're going to continue letting in 200,000 mostly Muslim migrants a year, every year, while mass brainwashing the German public that German culture no longer exists and that the Islamisation of their society is natural, normal, and shouldn't be resisted. When the Stasi inflicted a reign of psychological terror on the German people, they achieved it via a combination of relentless propaganda and threats of arrest and internment for anyone who dared speak out. 28 years after the fall of the Stasi, many Germans are now asking, has that much really changed?
Well, it's coming back. It's right back on top of them again.
Please click the big red button to subscribe.
There you go. A very good report by Paul Joseph Watson. Also, John Bown reports on the World War III looming over 2018 Winter Olympics in Korea. Let's take a look at that report.
Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard revealed the panic experienced by her constituents after the questionable events surrounding a nuclear missile drill that terrified Hawaiians for 38 long minutes.
The father who had 2 kids who were in different places on the island, and he had in those seconds to make a decision about which of his children he was going to go and spend the last minutes of his life with.
But I wasn't going to shoot a video or live report today because we didn't have enough information. Then I began to get calls from my CIA sources, my high-level Army intelligence sources, and analysis from my Delta Force sources, and just many others, that there is no way that this was an accident and that somebody pushed the wrong button, because there's 5 fail-safes. These are not computerized systems. They get computerized readings, but then humans have to flip off or on 5 switches to then manually activate the alerts. Then I get some more phone calls and they're like, why aren't you covering this? This is huge. This is gigantic. This is meant to embarrass Trump. This is meant to destabilize things, and it's meant to distract from the fact that there were uranium-1 indictments that it turns out came out yesterday that nobody noticed, that broke today. Those are on Infowars.com with people connected to the Clintons. The indictments have happened. And also that there was reportedly, evidence shows, a second shooter in Vegas in the new FBI search warrants. And that indeed, as our hostage rescue team sources and the FBI told us the day after it happened, that what we broke on air from our sources is exactly what's in those, and that he was an arms dealer, and it was an arms deal gone bad.
Meanwhile, all eyes are on Pyeongchang, South Korea, as the 2018 Winter Olympics begin on February the 9th. Will North Korea's presence at the Winter Olympics via their athletes and North Korea's answer to the Spice Girls open an opportunity for North Korea to put their guard down and come to the table, or will it all spiral out of control?
Well, we hope it won't happen again, but part of it is that people are on edge, but maybe eventually we'll solve the problem so they won't have to be so on edge.
Have you communicated with Kim Jong-un? Can you clear up your comments?
Well, we'll see what happens. They have a couple of meetings scheduled, a couple of additional meetings scheduled. We're going to see what happens. Hopefully it's all going to work out. We will see.
Have you talked directly to him, Mr. President?
Well, the Wall Street Journal, as you know, quoted totally wrong. But we're going to see what happens with North Korea.
But Kim Jong-un continues to move forward with more tests despite international sanctions. Reuters reports foreign ministers from around 20 nations gather on Tuesday to discuss how to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions through diplomatic and financial pressure. But China, seen as a key player in any long-term solution, will be absent. The panic in Hawaii should remind everyone of the razor's edge we are all tap dancing on under the threat of nuclear war. Fortunately, a majority of North Korea's longer-range missiles are still in development. But how long before they become fully operational? John Bound reporting for Infowars.com.
There you go. Not a lot of new reporting on that one. But, of course, the American government, as we covered, was it yesterday? The American military has been used to fighting guerrillas in the desert.
Yes.
But this is cold, mountainous terrain, and it is a standard military with, tanks and Air Force, you name it.
And anti-aircraft systems,
Anti-aircraft,
radars,
ballistic
so, yeah.
missiles,
Yes.
artillery, all that kind of stuff, conventional warfare.
Yes.
We haven't done that in a long while.
Yes.
A lot of our combat vets from the early 2000s in Iraq and Afghanistan, they've been, going after the cave-dwelling jihadis. So, boy, going against the whole...
Well, North Korea's also built a lot of caves and tunnels to hide their artillery pieces, that's for sure, too. So
yeah, and you mentioned, who was it? I think it was you that mentioned, they're fighting forces right on the DMZ,
Yes,
ready
yes,
to go.
yes.
I mean, it's not like they're moving anywhere, they're ready to go right now. Okay, so it is an interesting time.
Just want to point out that North Korea is sending a lot of people down to the Pyeongchang Olympics, although he pronounced it Pyeongchang or something like that. And this is standard North Korean policy. So they've decided that instead of attacking the Olympics, instead of bombing it, they're going to use it as a propaganda opportunity. And so he said that they're sending the North Korean version of the Spice Girls. Basically, there's kind of apparently Kim Jong-un's favorite girl band, and also an orchestra and other sort of, and obviously this is will be an effort to create more goodwill among the South Korean population to drive a wedge further, deeper between South Korea and the United States, and to make it look like, well, North Korea is not so bad. We have these beautiful women and these nice musicians. This kind of thing happens from time to time. But in the meantime, up in North Korea, they're still preparing their next nuclear test. They're still preparing their missiles. So this kind of cultural offensive buys more time for them and makes it easier for them to accomplish their ultimate military goals.
Well, also South Korean young people are also becoming leftist lunatic.
So not becoming, they already are.
And so they're seeing this, these performances, they're going to be like, ooh, look, they're not so bad. Look, they're very cool too. They got the Spice Girls. Look how pretty they are. We want to be like them now. North Korea's not really that bad. South Korea's collapsing anyways, so might as well ally with the North Korea where you have to eat tree bark, but believe them because they have a North Korean Spice Girls team.
My wife was recently back in Korea talking to her relatives and talking to one young man, actually her nephew, who has a good job and a good company. He's in his 30s, I guess, and started talking about how Moon Jae-in is a leftist, communist. He says, what? He's leftist? Really? Are we sure? completely unaware.
Yeah. Completely brain dead in South Korea. There you go. Maxine Waters also reported to say Martin Luther King Jr. would have marched to impeach Trump. Even though Martin Luther King Jr. was pro-life, he was Republican, and he despised identity or race-based politics just like Trump. Pro-gun as well. Martin Luther King Jr., who had marched for President Trump's impeachment, according to Representative Maxine Waters. This is what she said. He would have encouraged every responsible human being to march for justice, peace, and most of all, to march for impeachment of Donald Trump. Oh my gosh. However, MLK's own niece, Alveda King, made comments over the weekend that completely reject Waters' unfounded remarks. Racism is just a word that is being bandied out and thrown at the president unjustly, said King on Saturday. President Trump is not a racist. King continued saying it is outrageous to call a man a racist, who continues to acknowledge the significance of Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, my uncle, in a positive way, and he puts his money where his mouth is. He puts his energy behind it. King has made supportive comments about Trump in the past, calling him compassionate and a brilliant man. The president, of course, is leading the charge for civil rights today for the little unborn persons in the womb who have a right to live, she said on July. We don't have to defend the president. I believe, and President Trump might agree, that we are defending America. He's leading the charge, and we are supporting him. It's worth noting Waters called for Trump's impeachment 4 days before he was actually sworn in. Additionally, she called for Trump to be impeached over not just his recent S-hole comments, but also his NFL comments, his firing of former FBI Director Comey, and for the Charlottesville violence last summer. Of course, none of these qualifies as impeachable offenses according to the Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, which states the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Here is Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, Alveda King, saying that Trump is not a racist and liberal news is fake. Here you go.
It took them 30 minutes to correct this mistake. People were running around like crazy, not sure what to do. Can you blame them? And then we find out it was fake news, and they say, somebody just pushed the wrong button, but that is a blatant lie. If you listen to Alex Jones' Fireside Chat last night on the Real Alex Jones channel on YouTube, it talks about how the deep state is, of course, initiating a coup against President Trump and how this was part of it, issuing this false alert in order to embarrass President Trump. Well, guess what? Now Ajit Pai has announced that he's going to launch an investigation into this with the FCC. So will we get to the bottom of this? Was this an attack against President Trump to make him look bad? Is it even possible that it was a mistake? No. So what is behind this? We will find out. But if this was truly another deep state attack against President Trump, guess what? It's going to backfire just like the rest of them. So here's what I said in the first segment, and I will say it again. We want to open up the calls, the phone lines here today for callers in Hawaii. What was it like for you on the ground? Do you think this was part of the deep state coup against President Trump? And what do you think needs to be done? So those are the questions I have, and I really want to listen to what people thought about this from Hawaii who experienced this firsthand. So 1-877-789-2539, 1-877-789-ALEX. Specifically, I want to hear from people in Hawaii. What was it like? Do you think it was part of a coup against President Trump to make him look bad? And what do you think the backlash for this will be? So we're going to start to aggregate your calls here. In the meantime, I do actually have stacks of news to get to. So while we get your calls ready, why don't I go ahead and get into some of this news here today? I'll just go right through this stack of kind of just random news that I have assorted here. Now, on Friday, President Trump held a press conference honoring Martin Luther King, and you had Martin Luther King Jr.'s family there. You had a number of other African Americans there. You had Mike Pence there. You had Katrina Pearson there. It was a good gathering, a lot of smiles. People were happy, very cordial. He honors Martin Luther King. He talks about the greatness of what Martin Luther King did. And then immediately after that, you have the liberal media saying, Trump, are you racist? Trump, are you racist? Well, what more can President Trump do to prove he's not racist? And so then you have April Ryan saying Trump is racist. And in fact, let's go ahead and just go to this clip right now, guys. Alveda King reacts to Trump being called a racist. So here's Trump in the White House on Friday after the meeting. Are you racist, Trump?
Mr. President, are you a racist?
Mr. President, are you racist?
Are you a racist? Well, more media backlash over President Trump's comments about...
Yeah, look at how racist he is, bringing all of these African Americans to the White House. I mean, unbelievable. Look at the black unemployment is at record lows. What a racist.
Real racism at home, certainly, and throughout...
So now here's Alveda King.
And made real change. What is it when everything is racist, when that is the word now that everybody paints everything with that they don't like, does nothing become racist? Does it in some way sort of cheapen what your uncle fought so much to defend against and to stop?
Well, I believe Rachel just put it best. And by the way, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Fox and friends, thank you for being on it with real news and not fake news.
Ooh,
so
ouch.
to answer your question, absolutely. Racism is just a word that's being bandied and thrown about and thrown at the president, in my opinion, unjustly. President Trump is not a racist. I've been with the president recently.
So now the left is going to disavow the King family. You watch.
Making
No. I'm serious. I bet you can find videos of this clip on Twitter, and all of the radical leftists are saying, oh my gosh, she's a race traitor. This is what they do. These people are sick.
And I'm so glad the president has done it. But what is so outrageous to call a man a racist who continues to acknowledge the significant work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., my uncle, in a positive way.
Yeah, he appoints Jerome Simpson. He appoints Ben Carson. I mean, it's unbelievable, the racism. But this is the great part about it. The beautiful part about this is that the liberal media is destroying itself. It is completely destroying itself. And so if there is a silver lining here, that is the silver lining. And speaking of destroying themselves, Jamie Dimon, or Dimon, I'm not sure how you pronounce this, the JP Morgan Chase CEO, last week or the week before, he predicted a 4% GDP growth pretty soon. I think if we stay on this path, we'll hit 5% by the year 2020. But he points out Democrats don't have a strong candidate for 2020. Yeah, that's why they're trying to shove Oprah down your throat. Boy, did that fail miserably. And you've got the Women's March coming up next week. Folks, that is going to be an absolute embarrassment for these people. Trust me on that. Cannot wait for that embarrassment. Flu season is shaping up as one of the worst in years, officials say. Oh, I wonder if that has anything to do with them.
That is the reporting by Owen Schroyer and InfoWars on Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, Alveda, who says, of course, that Trump is not a racist. Agency that sent false missile alert in Hawaii gets death threats. Hawaiians are so mad over the bogus missile alert sent to their phones over the weekend that they're calling in death threats to the agency responsible, according to the new report. Threats came in through the agency's public phone line. We understand that members of our community are angry about Saturday's false alarm, and we are looking at these messages as individuals blowing off steam. While we take any threat against our personnel seriously, we are doing our best not to escalate the situation. Saturday morning alert apparently caused by an employee hitting the wrong button on the agency's emergency system jolted Hawaiians awake and sent some running for cover. Of course, that's been exposed that it could not happen that way, that there are manual buttons that have to be done, and an investigation will be held on the situation in Hawaii to see whether or not it was the case. But, I mean, why would you make a false alarm button with just one button? It's just, you would have to be completely absolutely a loony bin to do something as stupid as that. It's much more credible that the high-level Delta sources and intelligence Army service sources, etc., who say that's not possible. You have 5 different checks that all have to be done manually by hand. That is not a press of a false button.
But what's happening in the wake of this is that people are calling for the federal government to take over the civil defense warning system, because now it's in the hands of the states, individual states, and the National Guard.
There you go.
So it's being said, okay, now we see that Hawaii is incompetent, all states are incompetent, so there has to be more centralized control.
Unbelievable. They're always pushing that. They're always pushing that, always pushing it for more centralized control. We know how the political Satanists operate. They are constantly pushing more archangelism, archangelic power. Well, we'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us on the King's Report.
When you get to first realize that a stage of your life is ending and this is your role now, and that's when your mind really starts to say to yourself that you have to either act or think differently than you did when you were even younger, because you're going to be the new husband, you're going to be a new wife, you're going to be like a legal guardian or a person that people will look up to. And for me, when I was going through the process of even walking up on the stage, I was going like, I had never imagined that it will be like this in a million years. And I'm serious when I say that.
And yeah, I think I was really in the moment on that day. Just just so much gratitude that now it's like, now we're making the covenant before God, and now this is real, and now God literally is giving us his blessing. And it was all the stuff that happened before that what made it really difficult, was just completely, it all like melted away, and it just, being there and receiving the blessing just made all the hard work and all the good, just made everything worth it. I just felt so lucky that I was able to finally receive this immense grace from God, and to be able to stand with the best person in the world and get that.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Tuesday, January 16th, 2018 on this snowy morning at the Cheonilgung. Let's go now to Tim for an important report on Bitcoin. Look at it, it's starting to skid. Go ahead, Tim.
Bitcoin slides 18% on crackdown fears.
Wow, that's
Crypto
quite a bit,
rivals
isn't
also
it?
plunge.
That's a lot.
Well, it's very
18%.
volatile, yeah. It's very
Bam,
volatile.
it just went down like boom.
Bitcoin tumbled 18% on Tuesday to a 4-week trough, closed at close to $11,000 after it was at one time it was up to 17,000. So if you compare it
Wow,
with that,
I mean, look at
it's
that.
a lot
Just
more than
went-
20%.
it just
isn't
went bam.
Yeah, so just 18%.
I mean, literally, you
one
wake
day.
up and it's like boom. It's gone.
After reports that a ban on trading of cryptocurrencies in South Korea was still an option, drove fears grew of a wider regulatory crackdown. Bitcoin's slide triggered a massive sell-off across the broader cryptocurrency market, with biggest rival Ethereum down 23% on the day.
Wow.
According to trade website CoinMarketCap, and the next biggest, Ripple, plunging 33%. South Korean news website Yonhap reported that Finance Minister Kim Dong-yeon had told a local radio station that the government would be coming up with a set of measures to clamp down on the, quote, irrational, unquote, cryptocurrency investment craze.
It's a craze.
It's a craze.
People trying to make fast money.
South Korea had said on Monday that its plans to ban virtual coin exchanges had not yet been finalized, as government agencies were still in talks to decide how to regulate the market. Bitcoin slid on the latest news, trading as low as $11,191.59 on the Luxembourg-based Bitstamp exchange, down 18% on the day, for a short period, putting the digital currency on track for the biggest one-day fall in 3 years.
Wow.
It's mainly been regulatory issues which are haunting the cryptocurrency, with news around South Korea's further crackdown on trading the driver today. Think Markets chief strategist Naim Aslam, who holds what he described as substantial amount of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. But we maintain our stance. We do not think that the complete banning of cryptocurrencies is possible, he said. That's probably right. Cryptocurrencies enjoyed a bumper year in 2017 as mainstream investors entered the market, and as an explosion in so-called initial coin offerings, digital token-based fundraising rounds, drove demand for Bitcoin and Ethereum, the second biggest digital unit. The latest tumble leaves Bitcoin down more than 40% from the record high around $20,000 it hit in mid-December, wiping out about $130 billion off its market cap, the unit price multiplied by the total number of Bitcoins.
See how volatile that is?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The
Dang.
news from South Korea came as it emerged. A senior Chinese central banker had said authorities should ban centralized trading of virtual currencies, as well as individuals and businesses that provide related services, according to an internal memo from a government meeting seen by Reuters. You see, the Chinese central banker says something and South Korea does something. That's interesting. Bloomberg reported on Monday that Chinese authorities plan to block domestic access to Chinese and offshore cryptocurrency platforms that allow centralized trading. It seems like it's uncertainty spooking the markets, with regulations unclear, said Charles Hader, founder of data analysis website Crypto Compare. Traders are taking profits on the increased risk scenarios going forward. A director at Germany's central bank said on Monday that any attempt to regulate cryptocurrencies must be done on a global scale, as national or regional rules would be hard to enforce on a virtual, borderless community.
Well, let the markets handle it.
I think, the interesting thing about Bitcoin, you talked about previous about the cost of energy in producing the Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I read an article yesterday where, you know who's creating these Bitcoins now?
Who's creating them now?
Kids in college dorms.
There
You know
you
why?
go.
You know why? Because their school pays for the electricity.
The schools
pays for the electricity because they're in dorms. The school pays for the internet access. The school pays for the electricity. So they have a competitive advantage over other cryptocurrency creators. And so this is how they are funding their education.
Oh
So
my goodness!
how
No,
can
we don't know which one will succeed out of all this.
But
war.
basically, this is like, they're essentially printing their own money.
Yeah, yeah.
And nobody can do anything about it.
can't.
South Korea says it thinks it can do
It's an
anything about it.
inevitable thing that's going to happen.
They
And
say they're still trying to figure out how to regulate. They should try to figure out whether they can regulate it.
They can't. And Bitcoin, it may not be the one. It seems to be very volatile, etc. But there's going to be one crypto. There's going to be probably a couple.
Not one. I think
a whole
many.
bunch of them. Yeah.
Russia right now is Putin is developing a crypto ruble, and Venezuela also
China
a cryptocurrency. China too, so that they can get around U.S. economic sanctions.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
the whole idea of centralized banking and centralized financial control, monetary policy, all that is breaking down.
It's going to break down.
Yes.
It's a total reckoning. The whole world is totally transforming in this period. It's amazing. The last day period.
Yes.
The whole world is flipping upside down.
Yes.
Goodness.
FYI, Bitcoin miners means people who create Bitcoins, have extracted 80% of all the Bitcoins there will ever be. Although Bitcoins are bought, sold, and lost more today than ever before, the rate of new Bitcoins being created is starting to slow. The reasons behind that are a little complex, but suffice it to say, the closer we get to 21 million maximum number of Bitcoins mined, the harder it gets, and we've just hit the 80% milestone. So other cryptocurrencies are coming up as well, because it is getting more and more expensive to create Bitcoins. And this was another point, that these college kids are going into cheaper Bitcoins, because there's a certain kind of software and hardware that you have to have and so forth. The Germany's saying that any rule in Bitcoin must be global. Germany's central bank says, hey, good luck on that.
The central bank,
exactly. Good luck. They're trying to maintain control. They're trying to maintain it.
No way.
They said the national authorities across the globe, and particularly in Asia, have attempted to put the brakes on a global boom and the trading of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, a form of digital money created and maintained by its users.
It's interesting. Even Kuk Chung was talking about a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. So even national borders are all going to change.
Yes, yes.
The whole power structure is completely collapsing.
Yes.
And there's already a large movement with, I don't know who, Bitcoin Jesus is what they call him. Anyways, he's raised billions of dollars to make a sovereign nation that will be basically a libertarian nation. It doesn't have the checks and balances of Chinese Guk, but it's basically a nation that has no nation. And so you're going to see all these things to start to change. The whole power structure, the way the status quo is completely being rewritten. And of course, this is a huge one, because this is currency. Currency domination and monopolistic control of currency is the way the international bankers maintain control and stay ahead of the curve with inside trading knowledge and be able to basically take down societies. I mean, control them. I mean, turn them leftists and communists like George Soros. So having this freedom to basically print your own currency is going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge, and it's going to change everything. It could even change national borders. So we have a very interesting thing coming down the pipeline now, because this is all happening in the timeline right after Father passed. The whole world is literally flipping open. It's interesting. As Father ascended, and then he gave the test to the world, with the Han Mother, etc., of who would see truth, who would not see truth. You can see that in that short time period, right after he passed, is you can see the Satan's rulers became very transparent. They became aware. People became aware of them. You'll be able to see them for the first time. They came out of the shadows. The light started being shined on them. And at a skyrocketing rate with Trump, with InfoWars, for example, 5 years ago, you would be called a conspiracy theorist if you watched it. Now it's mainstream news. So the world has completely transformed, and it continues to do so. Just like Father said, right after he ascended spiritual, and now is in his direct dominion over the earth. And God's kingdom is coming. We don't know how it's going to come, but look at this. Just national borders are being disrupted. Currency is being disrupted. Everything is being disrupted. You just don't know how God will bring it about. You don't know. You don't know what God will do, but you can definitely see the world is being flipped upside its head. Flipped on its head. Okay, Tim, you want to go to another article?
Yeah, let's talk about Obama taking over public land for private purpose.
Here you go.
Here
you go, folks.
This is from the Washington Examiner. The battle to shut down Obama's presidential center. The Obama Foundation released plans last week for the presidential center it plans to build in Chicago's Jackson Park. But behind the scenes, a battle is taking place to keep the former Democratic president from building on that specific lot of land, and there's still a chance that it gets delayed when it seeks federal approval. What initially started out as a library has morphed into a 20-acre private center. And some environmentalists and historians are unhappy with the Obama Foundation's plans to swoop in and take over a national historic place.
Oh, Lord mercy.
The Obama Foundation originally said it would house a presidential library on the property and vowed to have the National Archives oversee the facility because of its placement on public land. But that's no longer the case, and some are balking at the change in plans. Here's the bottom line, in quotations: if the Obama Foundation wishes to construct this center on Chicago's South Side, that's fine, but not on parkland held in public trust. The University of Chicago, which orchestrated the winning bid for the project, has plenty of land on the South Side that they could use and should use. Instead, they've been adamant since day one that they must have historic public parkland for the purpose. That's Charles Birnbaum, president and founder of DC-based nonprofit, the Cultural Landscape Foundation. The foundation is not alone. The group is working alongside a number of others, including Friends of the Parks, Jackson Park Watch, Open Lands National Association for Olmsted Parks, Save the Midway, Landmarks, Illinois, and Preservation Chicago, all of whom have raised concerns about the project. In addition, 200 faculty members from Obama's former employer, the University of Chicago, issued a formal letter last Monday stating its opposition to the presidential center being built at this location. As a first step, the center's proposal must be approved by Chicago's planning department and the city council. That process is not expected to have any snags, as Obama's former chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, is Chicago's mayor. If passed as prologue, municipal officials will rubber stamp their approvals, Birnbaum said, but the federal process will be more complicated, and that's where Birnbaum's argument becomes especially relevant. The Obama Foundation will have to get approval from the Environmental Protection Agency under the National Environmental Policy Act and Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. A spokesperson for Birnbaum's group said it's difficult to predict how Trump administration's EPA will handle it. The first verification process will determine if the Obama Presidential Center would have adverse effects on Jackson Park. The State Historic Preservation Office will ask official consulting parties to provide opinions. They will play out over 2018 and involve several meetings of the official consulting parties, along with extensive written input from those parties. Birnbaum explained in an email, a determination could be made that there are no adverse effects, and the OPC would proceed, highly unlikely. A determination could be made that there are adverse effects, and a process of mitigation could be developed and approved by all of the consulting parties in a formal memorandum of agreement. A determination could be made that there are adverse effects, but the consulting parties don't agree on mitigation, then this would likely end in litigation.
This is always how it ends up. It's ridiculous. Can you imagine if Hillary was in office? She would let this go through like that.
Yes.
I mean, this is what happens. All communist countries that call their lands public and all this, it always ends up being on private land for the elites. They get to do stuff like this whenever they want. Mm-hmm. And it's not public land. They only call it public land, and they call it green zones and environmental protection lands in Korea, for example, called green zones. Mm-hmm. But the elites can do whatever the hell they want. They can get secret little deals. They can get stuff passed. They can build on it. They can do whatever they want, just like Obama is doing and showing. Imagine if Hillary Clinton was there, how easy that would be to push through. We'll have to see what happens, whether or not Trump will stop it or not. But, I mean, with Hillary Clinton there, she would give a green light, okay, smokey to Obama doing whatever he wants. I mean, this is ridiculous. And again, it's exactly what we told you. Commies always do this. They always say it's public land, it's in public trust, and then they want to build private stuff on it. It's exactly the same bull shish kebab that is the repeated reality of historical communism. Every time you vote leftist, they lie to you. Every time you vote leftist. They say it's public land. They use it for private purposes. I mean, it's always the case. Always the case. And Obama is doing it again. He's doing it again. Unbelievable. Go ahead, Tim.
That's it. I think it's a long article, but that basically gives the meat of it.
Now, yesterday on Infowars.com, they had an exclusive with Steven Seagal, who exposes the deep state's war against America and his relationship with Putin. This was about a 1 hour long interview. I don't know what clip this is part of it. I saw a little bit of it. But Steven Seagal, who is actually a law enforcement agent, he's actually a police officer as well, who has been blamed for sexual misconduct of a James Bond girl, apparently, is saying that it's absolutely ridiculous and that people are trying to shut him up. Alex had a Infowars exclusive.
Right now, but I will say that from the deep web to Hollywood to Washington to all over the United States of America, we have people now that are looking deep. We are now blessed by being infused with people high up in the government, not just the United States of America. People are coming in and helping us in the deep web all over the United States of America with money, with intelligence. We are gathering intelligence to pass to the right people. I'm not going to say too much about this because I'm getting highly involved in this too. And we think we're going to start to pierce that veil of evil and be able to start aiding in the apprehension and conviction of a lot of the scum that's out there.
Well, he's out there. He's actually also a Tibetan Buddhist, recognized Lama in one of the sects. But in any case, Steven Seagal here is saying that he's going after even the pedophile cults.
Live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday
pro-gun.
edition of 15.
Now he goes on to interview
Steven
Steven Seagal.
Switzerland, the government's saying get a contract before you even have a relationship. And whatever happened to passion? I mean, whatever happened to Elvis?
They go on for about 1 hour, and he talks about different things, law enforcement, etc. But Steven Seagal starts bringing up the whole pedophile networks, which he says that the law enforcement and he, in particular, will be going after. So he actually is calling out the different globalist networks, pedophile networks, Hollywood networks, you name it, and he's saying that we're going after you. And because he's going after them, he's saying that because he's starting as a cop, investigating this with other agencies, that's why they're coming out against him, saying he's a sexual abuser, he's et cetera, that this and that, because he's the one who's going out against them now as a law enforcement agent. It's interesting in this interview. I saw pieces of it, but he says that God is there and God bless America, all this kind of thing. He's evoking Christian values, even though I think he's a Tibetan Buddhist. I'm not sure. But I know that he's recognized one of the sects as a reincarnated Lama, apparently. But I don't know if he considers himself to be Tibetan Buddhist. And again, a lot of these Western Tibetan Buddhists, they have a lot of mixed ideology. You know what I mean? They mix this and that, mix this and this with this. So he speaks with, evoking God, it seems, in a very Christian way. Because Tibetan Buddhism, it would be very hard to make the argument that is a Judeo-Christian God, etc. But he does come out in a framework of Judeo-Christian morality and speaking. Many different sects of Tibetan Buddhism, for example, allow for consort practice and multiple sexual partners, and the lamas can have sex with almost every woman that he wants to. I mean, that was commonly well known with Chogyam Trungpa and the Shambhala organization, and that was told to me by my Tibetan Buddhist teacher at Harvard, who said that she didn't have sexual relations with him, but that it was well known that every woman basically had sexual consort, quote, practice with the Lama. I mean, and he would, it's just common practice. They would basically abuse their position as a enlightened Lama to have sex with the cute girls that are interested in Eastern mysticism. Okay? So it is a very not spoken about thing, of course, in the liberal circles, but Steven Seagal coming out and calling out the liberal lunatics and their agenda, especially the pedophile cults, which he is going after as a law enforcement agent.
The stage, and young women are throwing their underwear at him. I mean, is that a form of rape? Are they raping Elvis? I mean, this is crazy. And now they're saying schools are going to...
It's been completely one-sided. It's been completely one-sided. You and I know, we have wives, we have children. I would die for a stranger if I had to. And as a police officer, any day of my life, I would have thrown my life down on the line to save the life of a child, of an innocent person, of women and children. We herald and support all the women who've really been abused. But this movement is annihilating their chances because all of this is going to come out. And as you know, there is a whole force of people gathering around the world now putting in lots of money, lots of time. These people are going to start investigating the people who are coming after us. We're going to be coming after them. We are now investigating them. And this is something that, is going to turn into, when you say, InfoWars, this is going to turn into a war. But it's two-way traffic now because the people who are being paid to lie and the people who are paying them to lie are going to be exposed.
Do you want to get into Hollywood and the pedophilia rings that you were telling me about over the phone now or later in the broadcast?
All I can tell you is we have recently come into tremendously influential people in the United States who have money and who have power, and some of them are very high up in the government. They're all now putting together a group of people who are investigating. And I'm really wondering why every time anybody talks about the pedophilia rings in Hollywood or Washington or anywhere else in the United States, it gets buried immediately. Alex, you know this as well as I do. Our most precious asset, our most precious things in life are our children. And you know that we would die for a stranger who's a child to protect them against this kind of evil. And why is it that pedophilia in the United States is being protected and overlooked? Our children are the most precious thing we have in this life, and we are going to have to break this sort of secret, protected door that everyone is hiding behind.
That's right, and President Trump, behind the scenes, has authorized incredible arrests. We're talking 5 times so far, any previous year, thousands and thousands of pedophiles, not just with child porn, but in many cases with small children as young as 6 months old that were being gang raped. And it literally will hit the newspaper one time. Hundreds of arrests here, dozens of arrests there, hundreds of arrests here every day. And I personally am working with members of the military and some of these operations you're talking about who just this morning contacted me about huge raids that took place on the East Coast last night, catching them with the children.
Exactly.
Catching them with the children.
Exactly. We are getting involved in this also. I'm not going to say too much right now, but I will say that from the deep web to Hollywood to Washington to all over the United States of America, we have people now that are looking deep. We are now blessed by being infused with people high up in the government, not just the United States of America. People are coming in and helping us in the deep web all over the United States of America with money, with intelligence. We are gathering intelligence to pass to the right people. I'm not going to say too much about this because I'm getting highly involved in this too. And we think we're going to start to pierce that veil of evil and be able to start aiding in the apprehension and conviction of a lot of the scum that's out there.
It's truly incredible. And then the president signed the executive order seizing the child trafficker money, and the media basically attacked that and ignored it as well. Gave it almost no attention.
Yep. We're which goes to show you this veil of protection that, everybody has. Everybody has in this dark world,
Well, President Trump tweeted that anybody that molests or hurts children needs to be executed. And we, again, have seen total, absolute record bust, not just here, but all over the world. And the group that we're working with, again, we're not going to get into all of it, but it's multinational patriots and intelligence agencies. It's groups from our most elite military forces working with local law enforcement and trying to work with the feds and trying to get good people in place at the federal level.
And their organizations.
And they're finding that they've used the pedophilia to blackmail and take control of Congress, and that's why the deep state is fighting President Trump and many others so hard right now, because they know that this corruption is being broken up, just like Putin has tried to do in Russia. I know you're very good friends with him. When we come back from break, I'd like to get into peacemaking and why aren't we working with Russia? They're Christian, they're free market, they're reformed to many extents. Why does the deep state want us to be at war with Russia? We'll be right back with this incredible interview with Steven Seagal on the other side. Please don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we're under attack. I just got sued last week by a gentleman on the other side. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, an exclusive interview. Steven Seagal joins us from Asia via Skype. Again, if you're watching on the internet, please share the live links from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and more. And if you're listening to a local AM or FM station, please tell folks about the local station and the show and the live broadcast that's taking place right now so that people can actually hear from the other side, because we have the Democratic Party on record going out offering millions of dollars to women. You've got Lisa Bloom, the lawyer, Gloria Allred's daughter, coming out, getting caught in the emails that were secret, offering even one woman, $200,000 to make accusations against the president. She gets 30+% of the money from these TV deals and from what the media pays to these women. I mean, this is incredible. And you notice it's almost always after the statute of limitations, decades later, show that people can't say, well, go put up or shut up. Go to the police. Show your evidence. No, it's always done decades ago. It is a formula.
Look at that lawyer.
And what a house of cards.
She saw donor
Even
cash
after
to go.
This has all come out.
Wow.
Even after the top Democratic lawyers and top Democrat pollsters and top lobbyists, not just Lisa Bloom, have been caught, have been recorded by women when they're offering them money. And that's Trump's ace in the hole. Some of these recordings have already come out where there are good women out there who do care about real victims and don't want people yelling fire in a theater or crying wolf, so that when it really happens, people that have been abused get ignored, because the Democratic Party is basically using this as a weapon. And the reason I raised that point is Stephen, during the break we were talking, and he wanted to come back and make just that point. So I think I kind of just stole his thunder. But in your own words, Stephen, repeat what you were saying to me during the break, please, sir.
Well, I mean, all I was saying is that, we have a situation where obviously there are women who have really been assaulted. And as a police officer for many years, I saw this and was honored and able to help people who are in real distress, real trouble. We want nothing more but to be able to defend those people and help them. The thing that is an evil tragedy that is going on now is, like I said, people paying people to lie for their own political agenda, and because maybe they want to assassinate their enemy and destroy their name and reputation and family life and marriage and ability to earn money. There are a million reasons. There's a woman called Michelle Milken who stood up and said, listen, when people make claims, they lie. They lie for a multitude of reasons. They lie because they want to annihilate their enemies. They lie for money. They lie because they want to become famous and get in the news. And, she said, I'm not just making this up. I'm the one who has gotten into the FBI files and Leo files and law enforcement files, and I've gone over all the statistics, and I can tell you by my research, my meticulous analytical research, I can tell you that up to 40% of these claims are fake. Well, I personally think in Hollywood right now, it's a lot bigger number. So what I'm saying is, and I've said before, what some of these people don't realize is this is part of a plan to collapse the United States of America because...
Well, it's also a part of a plan to relativize the sexual assaulters. For example, in Hollywood, if everybody's accused of sexual assault, and then it comes out that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck or these bozos who were involved with Harvey Weinstein, some of the biggest protectors, you name it, if it comes out that they also sexually molested people or involved in pedophilia, well, they can say, well, everybody was involved in it. Look at all these accused scandals. Look at Hollywood. Everybody's accused of it. You're trying to say that we're the only ones involved in it. And that's how they make the relativization of evil. Especially when they're right about to get caught, they start blaming everybody and getting people to pay for play. Just like that lawyer, Bloom, was offering women money to accuse other people of sexual assault. And I mean, when it becomes so pervasive and the Me Too movement is everybody, and everybody's being blamed for it, and everybody's being alleged in Hollywood for it, now you can't actually go after the ones that are the true predators there because everybody's being blamed for it. And that's exactly the environment they want to make. They wanted to make that not in this negative environment where they're getting accused of it, but they wanted to actually legalize it in their view so they can actually go about their business of raping children and doing child sacrifice and eating young babies. As you said, as they reported, children as old as 6 months, young as 6 months old, being found in these sex predators area, locations, which are being cracked down on under President Trump. 6 months old, being gang raped. I mean, you can't imagine the demonology involved here. I mean, of course, cannibalizing as well, necrophilia with Sir Edward Heath in London. I mean, you're talking about at the very top level, these people are they're literal demons that are devouring babies. I mean, it's not like a Hollywood. This is happening in the world. This is what the super elites, these satanic elites are into. And Steven Seagal is actually coming out. I never liked him for his martial arts. I mean, he does Aikido and stuff like that, which, of course, through mixed martial arts and actual martial combat has proven does not work. Unless in combination with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that, then it can actually work. Wrist locks and stuff work in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with combination with that. But I've seen some of his movies where he actually now included Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He actually trained with the Machado brothers because his Aikido stuff, although his movies seem to be more realistic than others, it was proven to be very quickly when the early UFCs came out that Aikido did not work on trained fighters, and trying to do joint manipulation and wrist lock is not as easy if you don't know how to control the body through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so, of course, that's why he started incorporating them, bringing the Machado brothers into some of his movies to legitimize himself, etc. So I've never really liked him as a martial artist. And of course, how he's pretending he taught Anderson Silva how to do a front kick. Give me a break. Give me a freaking break. Anderson Silva is just a very humble person, and I guess he was a fan of Steven Seagal and treats him like that. But I mean, give me a break. He taught Anderson Silva could kick his freaking head off in a second. I mean, give me a freaking break. I mean, just a total ridiculousness. But as a law enforcement agent, he's doing the right thing. As a person who's serving our country, he's doing the right thing now, working with his department and other departments to go after the criminals and after the pedophiles. Kudos to Steven Seagal. I'm happy to see that. I didn't like the fact that he's, recognized as a llama. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, totally. I mean, I never was a fan of him in that respect as well. But I'm now starting to appreciate the fact that he's starting to stand up, give an exclusive to InfoWars and the Patriots at InfoWars and Alex Jones, etc. All those folks have been screaming in the wilderness for the last 25 years, being mocked and crucified, but now becoming completely vindicated. And he's saying that as a law enforcement agent, he will go after them. And that is great. Kudos to Steven Seagal. that is something definitely that I am pleased to see with him. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us on the King's Report.
We kind of like lost the sense of like why we were doing this, like why we were going through this, and kind of felt rushed because we only knew each other for about 2 months actually.
Only 1 month.
1 month?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 month before the matching ceremony we had. And so yeah, we started having a hard time. And so like for me, like, you know, you get kind of fooled by Hollywood, and I think that's where my biggest trouble was, because I didn't know how to be an actual good husband at that time and how to like really work with a woman before. So Hyun really gave me clear direction. Basically, you know, he just said like, you know, you have to be strong, you have to be, you know, confident in yourself and not be so worried about yourself. You have to be confident in who you are, kind of thing.
The more I had to wait, the more attacking was getting much more intense, and I was really struggling at the time. So, you know, and you know, I could feel Satan was just trying to attack me, playing with my emotions, making me really complicated and confused. And it got to the point where it turned me very negative about the blessing. So, and that time I knew the way to overcome this situation was, you know, just holding on to God and His words, because I don't think I'll be ever to overcome this situation alone. You know, that time I really felt I really need God by my side. So I started doing conditions, prayer and Rima. And doing that, through that, I really realized, you know, God was really straightforward to me and just, you know, sending these messages to me, you know, telling me to be thankful. I realized, you know, God really wanted this blessing to happen.
He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Tuesday, January 16th, 2018. Second King reported live from the Chanigung Palace Studios to all the kings and queens of the kingdom. Wow, I see some snow. I see some snow out there, folks. Look at that. As the light starts to come through, there is a shroud of snow that is now covering the mountaintop. Finally, I get a white mountain again. Goodness. You know, that rain just killed off all that beautiful snow. Yes, we get a white mountain. I love it. I love the snow. I love it. Absolutely love the snow. Hey, maybe today's the day to go skiing then for all the young people. Will say, no train tonight, but go skiing. You can. But anyways, let's get to our Rima today before we get into some more of this news. Psalm 92 today is our Rima. Praise the Lord for his love and faithfulness. It is good to give thanks to the Lord and to sing praises to your name, O Most High God. To declare your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness every night. On an instrument of 10 strings, on the lute, on harp, on harmonious sound. For you, Lord, have made me glad through your work. I will triumph in the works of your hand. Amen. Salah and Aju. Now, unbelievable. This is amazing. Give praise and thanks and worship to God. He said, declare your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness at night. These are life-giving words, folks. Life-giving words. I mean, amidst all this hellhole of news that we have to get every freaking day and look and peer into the abyss of evil that surrounds us with politics and political Satanism, it's so refreshing to see the Word of God. How refreshing is that word? That word is such a refreshing, life-giving power. As the Bible says, draw from the wells of salvation. It says in verse 2, to declare your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness every night. There is hope, folks. There is hope in Jesus Christ. There's hope in God. Amidst all this wickedness and evil and darkness, he is the light of the world. It said, the light will cast out darkness and light will cover the earth. The light of Christ. This is the power. And this is why people in the modern day can't really discover Christ, is because they've just been taught to avoid seeing evil. And they've been lied to by fake news media and mainstream media and Obama and the leftist lunatics and the fake neocon conservative Christians, fakes. And they've just been lied to. They've just been told that everything is going great, everything is going fine, when everything is falling apart. Everything is falling apart. The shroud has been thrown over their eyes. Totalitarians are moving in. The wolves are taking over. You know, the deep state is being constructed to implode America and to start a civil war, put 25 million gun owners into FEMA camps to get rid of them. I mean, that is the price of communism. It's always going to be genocidal because they need to get rid of their opposition by violent force. Violence is part of the Marxist ideology to take power. It's by any means necessary, including violent revolution, violence. I mean, so the left was gearing up for it. They were getting ready for it, getting ready to disarm our guns. If we're going to fight back, they were going to send in the military police and send in. I mean, look what they did to the Bundys. I mean, look what they're doing. They sent in the federal police, militarized AR-15 carrying, policemen, federal police being sent in to kill off the Bundys so that that idiot Harrod Reid's son could get a deal with the Chinese solar company for $5 billion. I mean, they're pay-for-play politicians. They're getting bought off. And these are the type of idiots that we're going to put gun owners and those who fought back in a civil war, which they would have created, into FEMA camps, they were protecting even Governor Ventura going to a FEMA camp, not being able to get in. Because he wanted to expose it, that these people are preparing camps, concentration camps, re-education camps. Literally, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it just sounds so crazy. The federal government bought guillotines, and we're trying to make the argument that the death penalty by lethal injection is not as consistent. So they were saying actually death by guillotine is more consistent and it's more humane. This is the argument they were making through multiple mainstream news media. Go ahead, guys, type up guillotine more humane than lethal injection. This is they were pushing this in the mainstream news under Obama, and then with Hillary Clinton, they were going to actually guillotine, they were thinking about it, guillotine people for, quote, treason, giving them the, quote, death penalty for fighting against the federal government, which, of course, would try to take their guns and try to take away their humanity, try to take away their sovereignty, try to implode the Americas into a communist state. And they were having no problem with putting Christians on domestic terrorist lists. FBI did that in 2012. Putting evangelicals on domestic terrorist lists. If you voted for Ron Paul, you were put on a domestic terrorist list. It sounds so crazy, but they were doing it, folks. They were freaking doing it. This is what's so maddening about this situation is that when you bring up historical truth, people they're so uninformed, they're so dumbed down, they don't know that this stuff was happening, even though they're released open documents by the FBI. Unbelievable. Do we have that article on the guillotines? Unbelievable. No, not here's a setup for guillotine. Oh, is that right? Okay, let's see. Maybe they have some of the news clippings on guillotines.
After the lawyer for a convicted murderer
okay, here we go,
the inmate gasped
and look, Fox News was in on it too. They were 100% supporting the neocons, Paul Ryan, you name it, Mitch McConnell. They were totally supporting. Fox News was totally traitorous, minus Judge Napolitano and, what's her name, Judge Janine, and folks like that. But a lot of these neocons on Trump, Fox News, were pushing for the leftist lunatics agenda, and they would help. They would be complicit. They would be complicit
Wood shot and killed his ex-girlfriend and her
in
father
relocating patriots who would fight back, basically gun owners, as into FEMA camps to be guillotined and be prosecuted for treason against the deep state and against Hillary Rodham Clinton if she was president. She promised that on her first year she would disarm the American public.
Conducted a horrifying murder. And you guys are going, oh, let's worry about the drug.
So they were saying that lethal injection is cruel.
Why didn't we give him a bullet? Why didn't we give him some rounds? Why didn't we give him something else? Everybody's worried about the drug.
And so the federal government actually bought, how many guillotines did they buy? Like 200 guillotines? They actually bought guillotines. They were preparing for war.
States have struggled over the past few
no
months
question
to
about
find
it.
drugs to use after execution.
And we almost lost America. We almost lost America. They will almost be collapsing in the Civil War. They're still trying to plan it. If they impeach Trump, there's going to be fire and fury. There's going to be hell on earth for those liberal lunatics and Democrats, politicians and neocons. There is huge potential for Civil War to break out if they try to impeach Trump. Because the Patriots won't stand for it.
Could you back up just a second?
And they're on the winning side in terms of the Patriots are. They're being exposed. The deep state is being exposed. The Russian collusion delusion is being exposed. All the fake stuff that they're trying to push is being... Look at this. Bring back the guillotine is my slate. Lethal injection is the wrong way to do capital punishment. Severing the head is a better way to go. Look at this. A nationwide shortage of key ingredients used in lethal injections has led some states to experiment with new untested drug cocktails for executing death row inmates. The practice has raised moral and constitutional questions, etc., etc., etc. Keep going down. Bringing back the guillotine may sound crazy, but it's certainly better than the current alternative. It's better for prisoners because quickly severing the head is believed to be one of the quickest, least... Look at this! Look at this! They were pushing this through multiple news media sites. I'm not making this freaking stuff up, okay? I am just informed. These people were going to guillotine patriots, literally have them on the chopping block, and because of the Trump revolution, and because of the micro to macro cosmos moving and pushing together, and because the center of providence didn't go with Satan and Babylon, harlot of Babylon, because we stood with the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, because we stood, and the remnant of God stood with Christ, that, of course, affected the macrocosm, eventually turning North Pennsylvania, 70,000 votes for Trump, winning the election. Boom! And now you have a sovereignty revolution that's happening worldwide. Worldwide. When we were speaking about this, preaching about this 3, 4, 5 years ago, they said we were freaking nuts. They called me a tinfoil hat wearing preacher, crazy nutbag. And when we started supporting Donald Trump in the very beginning, everybody thought we were nuts and we were lunatics. Even in the Republican areas in this area, they were saying we're nuts. Because Cook Jung is very well known, very prominent here, prominent car folks, and they say we were nuts. They say we were nuts, but we were ahead of the curve. We were in the providence of God. We're moving as Cain and Abel in loyalty with our true Father and the King of Kings, and we did not betray him. We did not do the fall of the family of God, and we stood with the King of Kings, our Father who art in heaven. And you see this incredible revolution that has happened, the Trump revolution, now the international revolution, now the gun ownership. is being protected in the U.S., even maybe expanded through President Trump. And of course, now we go to Europe. In this week, we head to Europe for European gun rights, which is now spreading through Europe as well, riding this whole nationalism trend that is going through the world. Now Europeans must start talking about gun rights. Of course, that's the tip of the spear right there. We're pushing it forward there. And of course, in other countries as well. Think about Iran. What could Iran do anything if the revolutions involved gun ownership? Imagine if the Iranians were armed, if their citizens were armed, they could have taken out those mullahs real quick in this time around in the revolution, not have thousands of the protesters be murdered and massacred and imprisoned, which just happened. Could North Korea keep its iron grip on its people, making them starve as Kim Jong-un walks around as the only obese person in North Korea with a Korean afro? Give me a break. Could he stay in power if the North Korean citizens were armed? No way, he could never stay in power. They would overthrow him in an instant, And that's why, whether you look at any totalitarian regime, that's why they disarm the public. That's why the public and the normal people need to have the power of the rod of iron. Which in case, of course, the biblical way, Christ will rule with his co-heirs with Christ in his kingdom. The rod of iron is the central accoutrement in Christ's reign for his kingdom. And never before has a gun or the firearms industry and or owners, etc., had the theology to explain that, had the revelation about the rod of iron. But now it is here through the blessing of our true Father and his actual three kingships on earth. It has now been exposed through the Trinity Constitution, etc., and the revelation of God of the rod of iron. Now we have the biblical understanding and biblical theological development of the rod of iron and for gun rights as well. So that everybody, this is the human right not only for Americans, but for all people. For God's kingdom will be ruled with the rod of iron, and he shall smite the nations, and they shall shatter as a potter's vessel. Evil will be destroyed by citizen armament, citizen firearms, and citizens being able to arm themselves and defend themselves against evil. The wicked, the wolves, will be pushed out. The social ills and a social disease of criminality will be wiped out and will be healed with the power of Christ, the Holy Spirit, and with fire, baptized with the Holy Spirit and with fire. Baptized with the Holy Spirit, the rule of Christ and his rule of the rod of iron. When it is in the hands of the good people, the evil dwellers will flee. Flee, flee, flee. So it's an incredible day. It's an amazing thing. And now you can see this now becoming mainstream. Even Hollywood stars like Steven Seagal coming out and exposing the deep state, talking about now the pedophile cults that he was going after. Let's go back to his interview here.
Happening.
He's also a law enforcement agent as well.
You just hit something.
Starting to stand up against it.
You just hit something that's profound. You're absolutely right. They're putting out all this fake news just to confuse everything. Mainstream media is already discredited, so now all they can do is just try to be such liars and accuse everybody else of being liars that no one is honorable anymore, or no one knows who's honorable. And so as the pedophilia comes out, and as the gay mafia in Hollywood that abuses and rapes so many men, I mean, from what I've heard in Hollywood from gay men, is that the gay mafia rapes men, abuses men. It's 2 to 1, 3 to 1, men being abused, not women, but that men won't go forward because they know people won't believe them, and people tell men just suck it up, and that it's mainly the gay mafia pushing this whole thing in Hollywood. And again, I'm not bashing gay people. There have been high-level people in Hollywood that say there is a gay mafia. Chappelle's talked about it. So many other people have talked about it.
Bill Maher has talked about it.
They're using this to basically smokescreen the abuse of men by men. Do you have any intel on that from all of your Hollywood sources?
Men by men, exactly. So domination.
Well, the intel is coming in from now, and we're getting a lot of it. But speaking of lies, I just wanted to say something else that we talked about, and that is Adolf Hitler said something very, very interesting. And Adolf Hitler had a publicist that said something very, very interesting. And this publicist was, as you know, paid to fabricate and lie about a multitude of situations, including activity of Adolf Hitler. And one of the things his publicist repeatedly said was, if you tell a lie enough time, it becomes the truth. And the bigger the lie, the easier it is for people to believe it.
Absolutely. It's incredible. And again, they're using the whole Me Too movement to destroy relationships. People are even afraid to ask a woman out. It's admittedly killing normal human interaction. And we know Hollywood wants to destroy the family. We know they want to depopulate things. And I mean, that's really what this
They're also
is
pushing
an overall
AI sex bots as well.
depopulation agenda.
Yeah, it's sort of part of it, you know. So, I mean, I think we need to start a movement. We've already started the movement. A lot of it is secret right now. We're secretly investigating everybody. We've got intelligence coming in on all these things. But our motto should be, and I hate all this hashtag this and that, it should be tell the truth. Tell the truth.
You know, I don't want to just sit here and say that high-level intelligence is battling the pedophile rings and just say it. Everybody knows we have incredible sources, so do you. I wonder if we should even tell people how you ended up getting on the show. I mean, I'm not going to, obviously, it's high-level U.S. intelligence said Seagal's been trying to get a hold of you for months, and I've been trying to get a hold of him for years. And just so you understand, this meeting was set up by high-level folks in the government. And I'm not saying that to brag. It's so people know there are patriots. And I don't want to go too far with this, Stephen, but you want to just confirm that for folks?
Oh, yeah, I'll confirm it. At the highest level, people have come to me and said, you know, we think that, you know, there's a bunch of what I call the alphabet agencies, and some people have, you know, made innuendos in my relationships with some of them. And I still have very good friends at the highest level in those agencies, and some of them have come forward to me and said, you know what, you two guys have to meet, and, you know, he wants you on the show, you'd love to be on the show, and here we are.
And again, we're not saying that to brag. I want to explain this to everybody very slowly and very clearly. In the last 3 weeks, twice, Colbert, one of the #1 shows on television where they put their propaganda out as comedy, attacks yours truly, and then next, Steven Seagal. And they do it on a bunch of other shows, too, that I can't even keep track of, because I've been told, and some of it's been leaked, that they have a hit list. And, of course, when we come back...
Well, I'm told the same thing. I've been told the same thing by undeniable sources. And, you know, what's amazing to me is these people that are out there attacking us, I wonder how many times they've done anything for the United States of America. Did they ever risk their life? Did they ever rescue anybody? Did they ever do anything that was at all uncomfortable for them for the United States of America?
Absolutely. We're going to go to break and come back and get into Putin, get into why they fear Steven Seagal so much, and why they've looked at their actuaries and numbers and decided we got to destroy Trump. We got to destroy Seagal. We got to destroy Jones. We've got to destroy people like Matt Drudge. They got to destroy people like Rand Paul, who's been physically attacked. And we're going to talk about that all on the other side of this incredible interview with Steven Seagal, uncensored, unfiltered. What an individual. No wonder they fear this guy. We'll be right back. Jimmy Kimmel, Colbert, these programs masquerade as comedy, but they're really fake news. And they both admit that they get marching orders from Chuck E. Schumer and the Democratic Party. And then what do? In order, they sit there
Chuck E. Schumer's.
And they attack myself, they attack my family, they attack who I am. They've had
Chuck E. Schumer's secret closet.
Tom Brokaw say that I'm a deeply racist person, but then not show a clip when everybody knows that I protested the KKK and I support Martin Luther King Day and think he was a great man. Why are they doing this? I'm not trying to make it about myself and Steven Seagal.
Now coming after
but the point is, you know what they fear by what
and
they
all
attack.
the indictments that are starting to happen,
and
the pedophile culture that's starting to get in prison.
And you know,
boy, oh boy, wonder what's in their
for
closets.
More than a decade,
that they're fighting Trump so
sheriff's
hard.
Deputy, you name it. That's one of the most dangerous jobs, like a volunteer firefighter. In most of these small counties, that's all there is.
Times are
volunteer
changing,
firefighters.
folks.
I've got family that's been seriously burned and gotten smoke inhalation being a volunteer firefighter. And then people like Colbert make fun of Mr. Seagal saying he's served this country and served this flag. Well, if you don't think firefighters and police officers serve this country just as much as our military does in many cases, you're full of crap. And again, that's why they attack people like Seagal, because they know he actually cares about the country. When people like Colbert making his little joke last week, and 2 weeks ago and a month ago, always the same joke, and he dresses up like Steven Seagal, saying Steven Seagal says he served America, though he never did it. Well, you know what? He's serving America today, defending this republic from globalists trying to take it down and standing with our president. And all of you that stand for this republic are serving this country in its darkest hours when the country's starting to come out of its coma. Now, I'm going to stop ranting because I want
out of
to
its coffin
with Steven Seagal.
It's coming out of its coffin that they put us in, and they nailed it shut, and we're able to kick it out a little bit. Our foot is out.
Even though
unbelievable,
you haven't even been that public of a person, they're coming after you. Let's get into why they fear you. I know you don't want to talk about yourself, but we talked for hours this weekend. I mean, you were nailing it. You were, I mean, so you've got the floor.
We have a situation where you look at geopolitical global crisis. We are in a crisis right now. The world is in a crisis. We have to look at the geopolitical balance of power. I have always felt that Russia and America should be brothers. I've also always felt that Russia wants to be our brother. I've also always felt that there has been billions and billions of dollars put into demonizing Russia and amazing propaganda demonizing President Putin. And I think that it's an outrage, and it's not just an outrage, it's really bad for our future in the sense that if Russia and America become brothers, we have a real chance to have a greater peace in the world and a more chance of global survival. I'm always outraged when I see the kinds of things like when they say, oh, you know, I don't remember if there's 27 or 37 or 57 intelligence agencies in America all said that Russia and Putin hacked the election. Well, certainly we don't have that many. And as you know, that's been debunked. They never found any proof that I know of. And yet, you know, the public sort of believes that narrative because, as you know, those people pretty much control the press at this point. And so what kind of a great sin have I committed by wanting Russia and America to be brothers? I don't want this for myself. I want this for the world.
Expanding on that, Russia helped us take out ISIS. Russia, right after 9/11, gave us the most aid of any country, sent in helicopters, you name it, to help us in Afghanistan. And again, Russia has kicked the globalist out of its country. That's why they hate it. We have the same globalist running our country right now, and that's why they hate sovereign nation states. And geopolitically, it would make perfect sense. I mean, we privately talked about the real threat here this weekend geopolitically and why the globalists have sided with another power and why they want to basically play the U.S. and Russia off against each other. Can we speak about China?
Well, I mean, you know, I'll leave that to you because you've already come out and said it, but the fact of the matter is that at this point, we have a situation where people are trying, when I say people, you know who I mean, they're spending billions of dollars to make sure that America and Russia do not become allies. They fear that because they know that if Russia and America become allies, they will not be able to make America a communist one world order.
That's right. And if you look at 1917, the very same globalists funded the takeover and the overthrow of the czars, and Russia has come out of 80 plus years of being under globalist rule. And that's why the globalists are so angry.
So he won't come out and attack
Now they're losing America. Now the Brexit's happening.
China for its
can you speak
satanic
to the
organ
global
harvesting
phenomenon of populism we're seeing?
Well, I mean, right now...
But as a Tibetan Buddhist,
said,
probably he
we are
hates China.
in a very, very
But he
precarious
should attack them
situation.
openly.
After we annihilated Libya, we annihilated the buffer zones that we had because Gaddafi controlled the tribes. And, once Gaddafi was gone, those tribes kind of created ISIS. And all of a sudden, we have the situation where you have all of these quote-unquote refugees coming into Europe. Europe is I don't want to say almost gone, but they're in a tremendously difficult situation. Germany, I don't think will ever be the same, and I think within 4 or 5 years it will be, it won't be the Germany that anybody knew. So Europe is now, kind of on a slippery slope that I don't see how they'll ever be able to climb back up. And, the Middle East is a complete mess. And now we have a situation where every time our president, who was democratically elected, tries to make any kind of a move anywhere, there are people who are, and agencies who are spending every bit of time and effort and money they can to thwart anything he wants to do. So it's really crippling our ability to be able to get out there and get involved in the balance of power.
Well, exactly. And you have Chuck E. Schumer saying the intelligence agencies have 7 ways to Sunday to get back at the president. You've got Phil Mudd, the former deputy director of the CIA, saying we're going to kill the president on CNN. This wouldn't be put up with anywhere. You've got the deep state admittedly illegally spying on the president, then lying about it. You've got this whole Russiagate thing with these Democrat FBI agents at the top, all caught trying to frame the president in their emails. They are so arrogant. They are so wild. They are so brazen.
No, this is, in my opinion, the worst America has been in the history of America in terms of turmoil.
You're absolutely right. We're going to go to break and start the next hour. And then I probably got 20 pages of notes that I wrote while we were talking this weekend. But I want to just go into different angles on this, how we defeat the deep state. I think we just let folks know there is a civil war politically going on, not just here, but all over the world, as the globalists try to maintain control over nation states. And anybody they think could be a leader for peace against their operations, and anybody that stands against radical Islam is being targeted because the globalists are allied with it. Steven Seagal joins us on Martin Luther King Day. And I know that when we talked this weekend, he really wanted to talk a lot about Martin Luther King as well and how much he admired Martin Luther King. So we're going to talk some about that and the ideas of Martin Luther King straight ahead in the next hour. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com, Newswars.com.
And he was against using race-baiting identity politics to get political agendas ahead. Martin Luther King was against race-baiting politics. He was pro-life and he was pro-gun. Give me a break.
And I was just thinking during the break about
these leftist lunatics trying to say he would impeach Trump. He would impeach them. He would fire them. You're fired. And Trump is, there's news, of course. We reported here that Trump is going to be going to the Davos group meeting. When is he in there? In the Davos group meeting?
He's going to be the headliner. Yeah, he's going to speak there.
When is that?
That's 23 to 26 of this month.
Of this month, 23rd to 26th, he will be at the Davos. President Trump next week will be at the Davos Group Forum. Where is that? In Europe?
In Davos, Switzerland.
In Switzerland.
Yes.
Interesting. He comes right after the second king goes there. We go there first. We talk about gun rights. He goes there the next week. Micro and macro again. We didn't plan this, Tim. We didn't even know it was on his schedule. All right, but he should go to Davos Group. He'd say to all of them, "You're fired." That's what he should say. He should say to them, "You are fired. EU must go away. Citizen sovereign rights." And hopefully he mentions something about sovereignty and self-defense. Hopefully he talks about gun rights. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing? That would be incredible. 1 week after Mr. Larry Pratt And Father's Kingship is in Europe talking about gun rights for European citizens, for law-abiding citizens, law-abiding peoples, etc. And that now spreading worldwide because, you know, for even people get worried. Even when we were at the gun show, somebody's like, well, you want everybody to have guns like North Korea? Hello? If North Korean citizens, who are people just like you and me, if they had civilian gun rights, North Korea wouldn't be North Korea as it is now. Kim Jong-un and the Kim regime would be gone long time ago. If Iran had citizen gun rights, they would get rid of the government. Now this is a reality. In some of these countries, you may have one regime take out another, and then another regime take out another, and things like this. There may be multiple rounds of that, depending on what type of civilization that is. That's true. You may have multiple rounds of fighting until you get another group that comes in, takes it over, but has a higher moral standard. Because the only way for a nation to stop the constant takeover regimes, at least for the short term, is the new group coming in has to say, hey, we have a higher moral framework. We don't want to do what was happening just in a couple of repeated cycles. We want to stop this, and we have a higher moral framework. Well, who's going to provide that higher moral framework? What ideology is going to provide that moral framework? It's not going to be radical Islam. They're able to conquer and take sex slaves and rape children through child marriage. I mean, that's not going to be the higher moral standard. It's not going to be Buddhism or Hinduism, which teaches relativism. I mean, that creates the multicultural vacuum, which then creates radical Islam coming in. It's going to be a strong civilization that also has an incredible ethic of love and forgiveness and mercy and recognizing that we're all sinners and we all have to repent. What ideology on this planet has those characteristics? Well, it's only one. It's Christianity, Judeo-Christianity. And I don't put Judaism in its own thing. It has to be Judeo-Christianity, which completes Judaism. Judaism on its own could not, of course, will not bring the kingdom. Most Orthodox Jews are Christ deniers. They don't accept Christ. They are Christ deniers. In fact, Jesus chastised the Orthodox Jews when he was there, who were the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He called them the synagogue of Satan. Not saying that all Jews are synagogue of Satan, but you get the point. It has to be Judeo-Christian culture because Jesus did teach eye for an eye, not eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, as the Old Testament teaches, but or revenge on just what you got. He taught even, if your enemy attacks you give him your other cheek. Doesn't mean you don't stand up against unrighteousness, but you have a different moral standard. You try to get the fight done over with, and you try to get it to the point where you can bring a civilization of self-reflection, repentance, recognizing we're sinners, recognizing that God made the ultimate sacrifice, humbling yourself, recognizing you're not perfect. All these kind of things are central to Christian theology and ideology. So at some point, even though you have in different countries, you have these cycles of takeovers and cycles of military conflict that could happen even if, for example, if everybody was armed. But at some point, that would have to stabilize. Naturally, it would not go on forever. It would have to be stabilized at some point, and you would have to get how that would stabilize is by a Christian ruler basically coming and taking over and saying, no, but we're going to stop these cycles, and we're going to operate with a higher moral framework. And of course, that's the process that happened, for example, in the U.S. The U.S. Founding Fathers had the higher moral framework. They had the Judeo-Christian, decentralized Christianity, of which they backed the Constitution with, and that was their legitimate argument coming from divine rights and natural law to say the British Crown was a totalitarian regime and should not be able to rule them as one of the colonies. They should be free for them. They had a higher moral standard than the British who were enslaving the Indians and the Chinese, and etc. They had a higher moral standard. Even though, of course, they had slaves at that time, even though 2/3 of the Founding Fathers did not have slaves, and the ones that, like George Washington Thomas were trying to get rid of their slaves and eventually put in the systems to get rid of slavery completely. They were not perfect. That sin of slavery has allowed for the amendment process, which has brought down America. But in the kingdom of God in Chaniagug, that will not be the case because those things are made transparent and made to be wiped away, the evil to be wiped away. I was just distracted here by Steven Seagal has a whole book about the wolves. Look at that. He has a book of the Way of the Shadow Wolves or something. I guess it's about the sheepdog, etc. That they were just playing up there, and they just missed it. But the point is, Chunyago culture, the Christian kingdom culture, will bring about that stabilization. And yes, everybody in the world are human beings who are human beings made in the image of God. They have the right to defend themselves. And if you ask the question, well, should North Korea have them? Should Iran have them? Of course, they're people too. And they have the right to defend themselves against totalitarians and tyrants. And that's exactly what would happen if the civilians had the rod of iron, the power of the rod of iron, and they were kings and queens and not the super elite class in a stratified serfdom, neo-feudalistic system. That's the road to hell, the kingdom of hell. Whereas the kingdom of God, which Christ is the center, which the virtues of Christ, the love ethic of Christ, of course, which now we're getting to every Sunday, we're getting to love ethic of Christ, which is so important when you have the power and authority of the rod of iron. And of course, there's rule with the rod of iron and citizen armament and citizens' arms being the original Homeland Security and the true Homeland Security, you name it, that will extinguish and wipe away the tears from those who are poor, who are oppressed, etc., and will crack down on the wolves and the evil doers that exploit, feed off of, oppress, and kill and rape and cannibalize young children and communities, etc., you name it. It is that Christian culture, folks, that is the center and the background of the kingdom. And citizens' arms are a critical issue. It is the central issue, and the governments of the world know it. They know it's the critical issue. Turn that volume down. They know it's the critical issue because in the end, the citizens, if they have the force, the power to fight back with the rod of iron, they can, goodness will prevail. Why? Because God made us in his image. And generally, human beings don't want to exploit other people because we have generally an empathetic heart as we grow up. There are psychopaths, but those psychopaths need to be quelled by the generally good people, by 50%, 40% being sociopath, following the psychopath class if it's in their benefit. But if it's no benefit in following the psychopath, the sociopaths will actually follow the normal people and become good. And that's what you want. That's what you want.
Just before we go off,
go ahead.
Breaking news. Japan's public broadcaster NHK issued a false alarm about a North Korean missile launch on Tuesday. This happened 3 hours ago.
Wow.
It was not immediately clear what triggered the mistake. We are still checking, an NHK spokesman said. NHK's 6:55 p.m. alert, that would be 4:55 a.m. our time. North Korea appears to have launched a missile. The government urges people to take shelter inside buildings or underground.
Wow, this happened again.
The same alert was sent to mobile phone users of NHK's online news distribution service. In 5 minutes, the broadcaster put out another message correcting itself.
This happened now twice in 2 weeks.
There were no immediate reports of panic or other disruption following the Japanese report.
Oh my gosh, wow.
It means that people didn't take it seriously.
They didn't take it seriously. And look at this. This is happening now in different places. This may be some kind of hacking that may be going on. You never know. It sounds so similar what is happening in both Japan and in Hawaii.
Yes.
In a span of like 2 weeks. Wow, this is very fishy business.
Not 2 weeks, a few days.
A few days. Is it a few days?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Last Saturday and then today, so about 4 days.
This is extremely fishy business. Now you have 2 false alarm missile attacks coming from areas which North Korea can target. And boy, that smells very fishy. It smells very funny in terms of, hey, somebody may be behind this trying to set these off so that when the real missile does strike or when they're really trying to attack, nobody's going to believe it, and there's going to be mass casualties. Who knows? North Korea may be involved in it. Who knows? They're going to say Russia's involved. Who knows? Hillary Clinton and the deep state probably know what's going on, and they probably are involved in it. But we have to see what happens. These false alarms are starting to happen at a record breakneck speed. This is ridiculous, and that's breaking news that you heard just on the King's Report right now. Very, very funny business, folks. It is a crazy day. It's a crazy time to be alive. This is the time to get right with God. Time to meet the Lord at His second coming. Time to see the Constitution, which is the true Constitution of the kingdom of God on earth that will take over the world and that will bring true sovereignty and freedom, private property rights, gun ownership to citizens, you name it. The rule of the rod of iron in hands of good folks that will heal and wipe away the disease and calamity and criminality that has plagued human history when we have Christ and we have his nation and his kingdom. Well, we will see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp, on the King's Report. Have a great day. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.